Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Overwatch Carbon Series. I'm Gil Frost, and we are here for week number 3 of the OCS. And before we go too deep into things, I just wanted to take a quick look at yesterday's matches.
He's got Tactical Visor here, comes on the flank.
Nano Visor on the way. Oh, it's asleep! Holding on to that Earthshadow right now, looking for his opportunity. Gonna get it, Earthshadow, knocking down 3. That was unfortunate for LG Loyal. Big opportunity. Graviton by Shatter, gun pulling 3. The Ice Ball failing to protect them as ID feasting on their corpses there.
Sound barrier, we'll see if he gets it. Nope, by Shatter.
Shatter immediately getting dispatched, but there is one good part about that. He got taken down so as Icefeld picks up 5. This is pretty aggro here from Ruffley. He's looking for the boop on the Icefeld. Icefeld does need to watch his flank. Goodbye, Icefeld. Who's going to win this Pharah v Pharah war?
No one!
Now, they're down the heart of their backline. No healing from Heat-En, and oh, goodbye, Spree. Liquid has dissected this LG Loyal defense. Finally, the Dragon Blade comes out, immediately takes down Icefeld, looking for Lucio, makes it a good one. 2 kills coming out here from Shatter, so his Dragon Blade win does come out as a success. Beautiful. And to hang, going in for the kill. Resurrection coming up, Team Liquid going to pick up their first win and take 5th spot here in the standings in the OCS. There we go. Potentially final fight here underway. Hype holding on to that Graviton. Getting going. Oh, the Earth Shot from Super. They can't get on the cart.
Jake comes in, Tac Visor going on.
Nano Visor in on this fight. Hype, though, gonna be neutralizing a lot of it there. Ends up giving him his mech for the cause, and still, he's able to pick off effectively, too, between the mech and the support kill, and Jake finds 3 anyways. LG Evil trying to take advantage here. They don't have as much of an edge, but Electric Cowboy suddenly, and like, Nomi just gets melted.
This has been the Zarya show. A huge crab goes off.
Well, the Graviton, that is decisive from LG Evil. 95% on the verge of winning the series decisively in a 3-0 fashion, and they do just that.
And for those of you who couldn't tell based on just those videos and the amazing plays that were being had, that was the new LGL and LGE in 2 different games, but right? No, Luminosity Gaming has changed a little bit. So walk us through the changing lineups here as far as team names go. There's ePen.
Well, as far as the team names go, of course, the new team, LG Evil, Luminosity Evil, used to be known as Hammers Esports, where Hammers has gifted control, so to speak, with a... Gift is the wrong word.
Yeah,
effectively, they absolutely extracted a large sum from the side of Luminosity Gaming in exchange for the rights of the team. Although apparently Hammers Esports have picked up a new team as well. Not going to be in the Carbon series, but Hammers Esports still in the Overwatch scene. But for now, they've given their gem of a team to Luminosity Gaming. And of course, Luminosity Gaming still maintains their old team. And now that team is now LG Loyal.
Yeah, so you've got LG Loyal, then you've got LG Evil or Evil. And we're going to be seeing one of them play tonight, actually, in the first matchup as compLexity be facing off against LG Evil, who remains undefeated in the Overwatch Carbon Series. And then following that, we will watch Team Liquid face off against Renegades. LG Loyal, they've got the night off, but we will see some more of them tomorrow. But let's talk about the first matchup. But before we do, I guess, since you haven't had a chance to talk, you're looking good there, Hex. Did you get a haircut?
I went to a barber and I said, clearly I have no idea what I'm doing. Please help me. So thank you, James. Much appreciated. Feeling much more put together just overall.
I hope James is watching. Yeah.
Well, I mean, you know, he's a nice guy. His last name was very appropriate for a barber. I don't want to say his last name now, too, because like it's his full name. So
yeah, you should have just saved the last name and then said, Mr. J or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Then you would have been good.
Well, you know, James, I might have to get James's last name after the cast because I might need to go give him a
I got his card.
Oh, there it is. Well, with how good you looked before, you look even better now. So that really helps the desk, I'd like to think. But let's go ahead and take a look at the standings as we are coming into the halfway point of this event. As I had mentioned, LG Evil standing atop the standings. Renegades is close to follow there at 3-1, close to follow at least in being second. We'll talk a little bit about their performance in a second. compLexity is at 2-2 right now. They're looking to really solidify their spot above Immortals a little bit more with a victory today, potentially. Immortals at 2-3. LG Loyal and Team Liquid are both at the bottom at 1-4. most notably, Team Liquid bringing, with the victory yesterday, bringing them up to that position. Before we get into the matchups, any thoughts on how the standings are shaking out?
Well, unfortunately, compLexity is probably going to join Immortals at 2 and 3. They have a tough task ahead of them facing LG Evil. And we've had probably another roster shakeup for compLexity, unfortunately. I was so excited about this game. I talked about it last week, talked about it tonight. I was like, they looked good with their new tanks. They looked good at the new players. And I didn't think they were going to beat Evil necessarily, but I wanted to see where they were going to hang on them. And now we don't know anything about compLexity again.
Yep.
Yeah, and just to be clear for compLexity and the roster changes that are coming in here, Bishu and Decop were not cut like Hex's hair freshly was here. Instead, from what we know here, Decop has gone to rejoin the Spicy Method combination, Spicy Boys plus Remnants of Method. So I assume they're just taking the name Method there because that's a sponsor. And then Bishu has left to join an unannounced team. So we'll see how that pans out, but a little bit of interesting intrigue there. But the bottom line is that compLexity is once more going to be trying out people to fill the 2 spots.
And those 2 people, let's actually go ahead and look at the whole roster, and we can talk about these guys. But it is going to be Meza and Nesh. So Meza is going to be playing Reinhard and Winston primarily, as far as what we're expecting. We've seen a lot of surprises in this event so far, but we're going to put that out there. And then Nesh, we're expecting that off-tank flex DPS, Zarya, Genji, Tracer. So looking at just their roster right now, taking a look at the new people and how the people that we have seen at least fairly consistently have performed, are we expecting anything specific out of them?
Expecting them to struggle again. They performed well with Decop and Bishu. They performed above expectations, I think, because both those players played very well. But it's difficult to keep turning over a third of your roster every single time, especially both tanks. We're going to talk about it a little later, but that affects the rest of the team so much. Your tanks are your front line. They're your backbone of your team. You expect them to be certain places. You expect them to play a different way, and rotating it out, and especially announced rather late, too. So I imagine they haven't had much time to play together, so it's going to be rough.
Right now, we're going to have to see how they mesh with this team because you never know until you actually see it in action. I will say this for Nesh. He is former Anox alumni, used to play with players like Cypher back on Anox. So he has been in the scene for a while, even though he might not be the most well-known player. Rumor mill has it that there was a time where he was trying out for NRG when they were filling their spots. Clearly, though, if he's with compLexity tonight, that didn't work out for him there. So we'll have to see how he performs. Really, it's going to be... who knows? Because even if you have a very individually skilled player, you don't know quite how they're going to interact with a team, how their comms are going to be. Are they going to be in sync or out of sync? So we'll have to see.
Yeah, and we were really expecting this to be somewhat of a litmus test for what we thought was a solidified roster. It's going to be a litmus test, but of a different variety. We really just need to see anything from them, and it's more going to be a test for Meza and Nesh more than anything, because we did have high expectations in those roles from Decop and Bishu. Well, let's take a look at, here's their roster right there. As you can see, the Torque and Nicholas TJO brothers going to be doing their primary DPS. Nesh is going to be added to that mix here and there potentially. And then, of course, Joe Meister and Shake on the supportive roles. We actually saw Joe Meister, by the way, playing Torb recently, so that I'm excited to see some more of that. Anytime I can see a Lucio player not playing Lucio, that's pretty exciting. But the player to watch coming into this matchup is going to be Shake. And when we talk about a roster that has changed so much, one of the performers that has been performing very consistently, it's been Shake. And so we really need to give him a good handshake for all of his good stuff that he's been bringing to this roster.
You okay with that?
It's been a rough day.
That was a little bit of a light putt, but I will accept it. But yeah, let's talk about Shake for a moment here. I feel like when you look at Overwatch teams and what's really defining teams right now and identities is that I think you can make an argument that right now, of course, your DPS combo is very, very big, but also big is what can your support player do, your main support player, who's going to be on the Ana, Zen, or otherwise. And Shake has been an unbreakable backbone for this compLexity squad, and they've needed that more than ever with all the crazy roster changes that they've had. And I think it's shown a little bit to his adaptability, the fact that he was able to work pretty well with Decop and Bishu. That's a big change to deal with as a support. Now he's going to be tested again here tonight as we see how is Shake going to deal with Meza and Nesh.
Unbreakable may be true, but there's only so much strain a spine of a team can take. And honestly, we were talking before the cast, and I said, I feel bad for him. I feel bad for him having to readjust to all these tanks. It's so difficult as a healer to know where they're going to be, how they need to be supported. Some tanks need you in their pocket the entire time. Some tanks allow you to spread it around. Do you boost this tank? What do they work with? It's the incredible strain put on him has to show at some point. So far, it hasn't, and that's been a testament to how well he's been playing, but at some point, you just have to lock in a roster. You can't have this turnover, not with an entire role. I say it in fights all the time. It's always tough to lose both of anything, both supports, both DPS. To lose both tanks on your roster seemingly every week, what's happening?
I mean, in defense of complexity here, I don't think this has been their intent. Harblu, of course, walked off on his own volition. There's also rumors about where he might be going, but apparently still under contract to complexity from everything that I've heard. So who knows what's going on there? But you throw aside Harblu for a moment. Winghaven also left on his own volition, from what I know, goes to the side of Bench Boys, who has also, by the way, had a turnover. We're too easy, no longer on Bench Boys. Interesting happenings today. And then you have the case where they try out KO and Chow. They do remove them because it doesn't work out, but they were probably pretty happy with Decop and Bishu, but now both of them have left. And it's a little bit weird because Complexity was getting good results with Decop and Bishu, so you can't think it's a situation of merely, oh, we don't like these guys, we're not getting results from either side. It's just circumstances haven't worked out for Complexity, and it's unfortunate.
And it has indeed caused strain on the roster and definitely on the support in this case, being Shake, which is why he's our player to watch. And speaking of strain, if we're talking about having a weight on you, the weight of LG Evil coming against you in this one definitely is going to be weighing on you as well, as LG Evil is currently the powerhouse in the event. But let's take a look at them a little bit more detail in that case. It's hard to really break this down when you're talking about LG Evil because of just how consistent most everyone has been. They have just been firing on all cylinders, but here is their roster. ZP, any standouts from yesterday's performance looking at this roster?
Well, you take a look at it, I think clearly it comes out as Jake and Train, where Jake had another monstrous game overall, but Train coming out on the Diva had very big moments. Train, you take a look at the overall stats of the event, really does not die very often. One of the most survivable players. Now, that does have a part in playing Diva as often as he does, but he was staying in fights that arguably should have been lost for Hammers and able to live beyond expectations, pick up 2-3 kills, and you certainly don't see every Diva doing that, especially in this particular patch.
I was especially bummed hearing about the complexity changes because one small weakness, and I say that just to find anything to say about LG Evil, was when you took out Super very early in fights, they were able to be controlled in some of those fights as well. So I was expecting a Decop versus Super matchup. Don't get that again today. But everyone is very good on this team. You mentioned the superstars, but you have people like Avast. We haven't said his name much. Want to know why? Because he's Lucio and he's not making mistakes. It's like an offensive lineman. If you don't say his name, he's probably playing very well. Across the board, no one has a weakness here. I still think maybe if you can isolate Super when they're running that triple tank, you have a chance against it. But I don't know what they're going to do with these new tanks.
Well, it's kind of interesting. You look at the overall stats for the event, you get the idea here that for most teams, even the teams that have very good Reinhardt play, a lot of the times when there is a first death, it is going to be Reinhardt more often than not for most of the teams in the tournament. And that is one strategy of winning fights, because you take out the Reinhardt, then suddenly your win percentages for the fight go up to 60, 65%. So even Hammers, with as good as their tank play is, they're not immune to that particular phenomenon.
And it may be why yesterday we saw them switch over to the 3 tank. They've been running a lot of the 3 DPS. And they even ran 4 DPS, I think, at one point. But 3 tank setup came out yesterday. So why do they use that? I mean, they've gone to 4 tank in recent history as well. But what are the advantages and disadvantages of that versus 3 DPS?
Well, the upside 3 tank is that you can set your own terms. If you're running a more DPS heavy lineup, you have to dart in from the flanks. You have to find ways of getting into the back line, but you can't take it straight up. You can't just W mouse 1 into the other team. Hammers, on the other hand, when they do run these 3 tank setups, it gives them the ability to just push in immediately and really catch teams off guard. They don't have to worry about subtlety or being caught out. No, they go directly into the other team, and that is the power of a tank-heavy setup.
It may have been the case a little before when they're running 4 tanks that it gives them the more sustain and the slower push. I think a lot of the times last night why we saw them running 3 tanks was just to give Jake the absolute support he needed. I talked about Train on that Diva time and again. Jake lived inside of that Diva defense matrix. You could not shoot him. You couldn't kill him. It was making it very frustrating for the other team. That's why his McCree was so successful. Train was a great Diva back when they ran 4 tanks, and I think a lot of it, they understand we will go as far as Jake can take us in some situations. Let's give him all the help he needs.
The bottom line there is that Jake was the chosen one.
He was the chosen one, chosen by Train's Diva. Well, the player to watch is not going to be Train or Jake coming into this matchup. It's actually going to be Rob 420. It's someone that, I mean, we have a lot of great Ana players in the field, and Rob 420 has been very strong, but what he tends to do, it seems, is really find a pocket, and he just sits in there and heals. And how have they used that, I guess, to their advantage, and how can they make that work?
Well, for Rob 420, the key thing for him is that he's oftentimes one of the bigger targets when you go up against hammers, because one of the Achilles heels there is that if you are running a multi-tank setup and you can get in on the Ana, you're going to just absolutely kneecap the other team in their healing output should you get on him. But part of the reason why you do see him more running with, say, a soldier or otherwise is part so he can be aggressive and move forward and be able to heal his tanks, but the other part is protection. So if someone does dive on him on the back, now we are seeing teams run more dive comps, getting in your face, guess what? He has a little bit of support there, in addition to his own formidable DPS, to push away anyone that's trying to get in on him.
By extension, and how we talked about Shake, the consistency of this team's roster has to let Rob feel very comfortable of where people are going to be. Even if they're not communicating it, he knows tendencies. He knows oftentimes our Lucio will be wall riding here. He might need a dart here now. He just knows where this team's going to be because this Hammers roster, or now the LG Evil roster, has been together. It's been a focal point of why they think they're so good, and it's hard to argue with their results.
It is really hard to argue with the results. We do have the first map. By the way, LG Evil has selected, and they have selected Kings Row. We're going to be getting in on it momentarily, but any thoughts on why they would want to pick Kings Row here?
It doesn't matter for me for LG Evil. They don't lose maps.
Yeah, going into that, it's a case where why not go here? I mean, they're going up against Immortals in this case, so you would... Actually, that's not right. They're going against complexity. That is I was reading around there. I was like, wait a second. That makes no sense. We just saw that yesterday. I mean, they wouldn't want to bring complexity, I think, to either Hollywood or Eichenwald, where complexity, I think, has definitely shown a higher degree of competence on those maps. So I think here, this is a case where, as Hex has mentioned, LG Evil is not bad really at anything. So why not pick a map that maybe your opponents haven't really specialized in as much as the others?
Yeah, well, I mean, either way, it's really hard. We talk about, like, statistics and trying to, like, figure out weaknesses in this LG Evil squad, and it is very difficult to find that just because, well, they have been winning everything, so.
All right, so opening up here on the dreary streets of Kings Row here, Hex. I gotta say, we haven't seen any sunshine on this map ever. Do you think it's just the factories in the background that have blocked out the sun?
No, I've been to London. Pretty much looks just like it right now. It's a dreary town, a fun town, but you have to enjoy cloud cover if you live in London. Although no need for sunscreen there, so that's nice. Although you can't get burned.
You can totally
in the overcast.
still get burned.
Yeah, well, we're both pasty and susceptible. We're far too Irish to be living in London. Regardless. Now we are on Kings Row, and it would not be a tournament with you and I without starting on Kings Row, it seems, at some point. So we'll wait and see which these teams wants to come out, what they want to put on their roster here on the defense.
Well,
and yeah,
taking a look here at the defense coming out here from the LG Evil squad. A little bit overlay stuff there, but that will get fixed in just a moment. But you take a look at the defense coming out here. This is what we see a lot from the side of LG Evil, where they will run a more traditional 3-tank defense, and they let Jake sort of freelance, look for his opportunities in the back line, but he usually does not get the biggest amount of support that other Genjis might get.
well, there's a lot of tanks to keep very healthy. Rob will generally be keeping an eye on Jake, but Jake can sometimes punish if he gets too aggressive, not only on his Genji, but on other heroes as well. Sometimes he goes for giant hero plays, and that doesn't allow Rob to keep eye lines on him and keep him nice and healed up. Right now, just dancing on the statue, though. Offensively, though, Shake is on the Zenyatta. Interesting play.
Well, for the Zenyatta, of course, he is getting buffed next patch, but why not use him this patch? But, oh, right away, Train able to find Jake immediately, sets up Jake to go to the back line. So both supports immediately down here for complexity, Hex, and that is already an overfight. Pretty hard to bring it back when Roadhog feasts to start out the first fight.
A very cool defense, though, as Jake dove through him, forcing him to move into the sight lines of that hook, and the hook connected. So nice execution on a plan there. On the defense, a completely one-sided fight early on for LG Evil, and we'll see how they want to reset. Torque on 76, trying to get some stuff. I mean, they've got a lot of DPS here. They just need a coordinated dive.
Well, you see Jake coming in off the flank. Train not going to be with him immediately here, but Nicholas runs into Super's Fire Strike early on here. And compLexity actually struggling pretty heavily to get a good initiation here. They seem a little bit lost, and why not? They have changed up their tank setup here again, but even for changing up the tank setup, this dive has felt very discombobulated. Just LG Evil holding firm on their positioning and punishing pretty rapidly whenever compLexity does cross the plane.
Of all the things to die to as a Tracer, a Fire Strike is not one of them unless you accidentally blink into it, so that can't feel good. They're not necessarily switching things up though, still running this dive offense rather with Torque on the 76. We will be entering the ultimate phase of the game. Torque has his visor up looking for an angle. They need to start getting first kills here and not losing so early.
Well, here comes Jake. Dragon Blade and Nano Boost are in play, and why not? Nicholas just picked up 2 at the Pulse Bomb, so he has to pull it back, but he is pulling it back, takes down 2, and LG Evo, at least for now, should be able to hold on strong here. And even a little bit of stagger going to Joe Meister, they did not give him the immediate death that he was looking for.
No, rough for the Lucio to get out. 2 minutes remain. So far, compLexity has shown only the smallest signs of life with the Pulse Bomb that killed 2, but defense now in full control. Only the one ultimate used, or actually both used in the back on defense there, but most of the tank ultimates out. Very difficult to push into this. They need to kill something first. They have to get this initiation.
Well, Volgan drop the Graviton here, pulls in just Meza early on, and already 44 on this team fight. Soundbarrier though coming in from LG Evil. They are going to throw the remaining amount of resources they have into this, but Super goes down. Not only use the Earth Shatter, and here comes compLexity now, Soundbarrier of their own. This is going to look very good for them taking this point, but Train still a force in the backline. Picks off 1, gonna have to dodge out here for a moment. 3 on the point. Now the question is, for LG Evil, will they even be able to reinforce this in time? It's actually looking rather grim.
Well, LG Evil's not the type of team to give anything up for free. They will force fights even when they are the underdogs. That has always been their style. And look at this. 2 kills as Train stayed alive that entire time. Super picked out Nicholas as well. They have the upper hand of this fight yet again.
Oh no, Jake not able to finish off Zenyatta there, and Shake is just going to transcend out that. Pretty big misplay coming out there. Who knows if it would have turned the fight the other way. It was still very much going compLexity's favor. But yeah, a little bit unfortunate execution there as compLexity will be taking this point. Now, let me just ask you this, because there was a glimmer of hope that LG Evil could have brought that back. Did compLexity make a mistake by not chasing down Train when they knew he was there?
I was absolutely going to say that. They had Train, they knew where he was, they had the numbers to pick it off. You can't leave a tank like that alive. Not a tank with the pick potential of a Roadhog anyway. So yes, it was a mistake. They weren't necessarily punished for it because they got gifted an unforced error on their side as well. So far, not the cleanest game from either team here. compLexity holding very far forward. This is nice, getting a lot of free push. Can't get caught out here though. Torque's gonna back up, just keep sight lines, get as much free poke as he can. Nicholas is up there as well.
Oh, for Torque, he just wants to get a little bit more to get the attack visor up, and that opens up opportunities to come in from the high ground. Meanwhile, Nicholas is on the high ground, going to be looking to drop down. So compLexity attacking this from multiple different angles, but here we go. Self-destruct, open aim for this fight. Does not connect on anything. LG Evil coming in from 2 flanks, but now starting to back it up a bit. Super caught out, Shake's Discord Orb, spelling his demise. 2 unanswered kills here as Torque comes in with the attack visor, going to be cleaning up the entirety of this LG Evil squad. And now compLexity very well could roll this right to second.
Not only could, but should, with all of those kills and how close they are able to clean up the Lucio, so they start getting this free push on here. Hammers, or now LG Evil, I'll be doing that all night, I guarantee you, is a team that is known to fight even when they're underhanded. They like to take as many fights as humanly possible, so possibly they could charge in here, but the recipe to beat this team is to isolate Super like they did last fight.
Well, they are going to get the payload just in time as Jake goes to backline. Dragon Blade unleashed once more. Not able to get Lucio. Gets rope-a-doped a bit. Has to take refuge into Pub, but while they're chasing him back, Train gets on to Nesh. So he's going to die in the middle of this. 4v4 on the point. Still relatively even between both teams. Vol now charging through, 68% charge. Now that Joe Meister is down, this is looking far better here for the side of LG Evil, as perhaps compLexity will get pushed back. No, Nicholas and Torque exploding for 2 at the very end. Soundbarrier comes in very late for LG Evil, and we'll see if this is enough. And that was Graviton coming in from Vol.
It's scrappy to say the least. Vol is still alive and he's still at nearly 100% charge. He is melting people down. Transcendence is going to come in very late. You do not want to give up this point, but now numbers firmly in LG's favor.
LG Evil has finally turned the tide here, and that's unfortunate. compLexity gave themselves an opportunity to come back in off Nicholas and Torque getting those 2 kills, but they weren't able to convert it out. Still, though, they did drink quite a few ultimates from LG Evil. They had to throw a Graviton in at the very end. Though, heck, look at Vol's charge here. We don't usually see Vol getting this much charge on Zarya this quickly.
I think Vol is tragically underrated, especially when fights start to break down. I've seen him fight 1v3 as Zarya before and keep things alive, which is mostly what he had to do on that cart. Got so much damage that he was able to pull a Graviton Graviton, and look at all the damage he's done since then. Already at 70% cure another Graviton. Torque takes down Jake very early, though. That's most of the DPS down for LG Evil.
compLexity now trying to take advantage of this Torque, piling on. Tac Visor and Nano Boost in play, picks up 2, and this is just going to be rolling through the remainder of the LG Evil squad. And Hex, you live by the Jake, sometimes you die by the Jake. We've talked about this a lot where Jake sometimes just goes a little bit too aggro early on, and then when he gets punished, that gives you a really good opportunity to punish LG Evil for being down a player.
I mean, the thing is, it's when he gets punished, right? There's so many times he goes aggro and no one is able to punish him. So, yeah, you're right. You live by it, you die by it. But right there, losing him early really hurt. Perhaps freelancing a little too hard. Nesh trying to set up the self-destruct, see what he can get.
Well, it's a mini 20 left here for compLexity, and he gets a big one here. Avast going the fall to that self-destruct. The support backline for LG Evil getting absolutely throttled. Oh, goodbye, Nesh. Farewell. You're on this ride with me, says Trade. And that actually is somewhat helpful here for the defense. It will give them a chance to at least get a 6v5 coming back into this, which should be enough to push back compLexity. But we'll see. compLexity still has Transcendence. We'll see how much they make of this, and if Nicholas gets something on the pulse bomb.
Vol's gonna use the Graviton, only gets one into it to lose. The Zenyatta actually comes back to Transcend, keep his whole team alive, mitigating all of that Graviton. Does pull them back, though. Pulse bomb doesn't get much. Here comes an angry Winston.
All right, I don't really like that Transcend too much. It does save, but it also wasn't used when they had everyone back at the point. Now we do have Nesh back into this fight. His Torque again over the top. Tac Visor bait drops right down into the Earth Shatter. Suddenly, Jake is there for the follow through. Super now nano boosted, clearing out the point with swing after swing. So off the hammer of Super, LG Evil able to throw compLexity back. It's only 15 seconds left here, Hex, so we'll see if they can even touch this cart one more time.
They are going to switch onto a Bastion, which I really like. I think Bastion could be good. Well, never mind Train. Thanks a lot for that, buddy. As he switches onto the Roadhog, there no need to switch on the Bastion. I guess it's last second. A Sombra in from Torque gets hooked immediately.
That is not the translocator he was looking for. The one preferably not near the hook. But compLexity still in this. 5v5 on the point. Meza, good pin on the Train, and now Nicholas looking to be the hero. Darting in and around here. Really no one on him, and this is a mistake as he's already picked off 2. Looking for his 3rd. Suddenly, Jake, Dragon Blade coming out. Has to heal in the middle of it, so this Blade not gonna get as much as he wants. The coordination of the ults there, not really in sync. Response coming in here from LG Evil, but they're down to their last 2 players, Train and Super versus everyone. And this is very likely going to be going the way of compLexity. Super gets hacked and stacked at the very end. Yikes.
What do you think of Jake that game?
It was a quieter game for him, and he gave away a very important pickoff on second where he didn't really need to.
Unforced errors, really just kind of sloppy. The only reason LG was able to put up the defense that they did was 2 hero plays from their tanks. They had Vol on second, save it nearly by himself for a while. That brought it back. Super towards the end got a boost from Rob and then hit a really, really nice Earth Shatter. Beyond that, a sloppy game from LG Evil. You have to wonder, or it's hard to wonder, of course, but that they're not overlooking compLexity.
Well, let's look on the high note here, too. What did you think of the additions here at compLexity? It didn't, you take a look at Nesh and Meza here. It didn't necessarily feel like they were necessarily having the biggest games, but they also weren't showing up to us as really throwing either. You think back to when they tried out Xiao and KO for compLexity. They had multiple moments of unforced errors, going out, getting picked off early. We didn't see any of that from Nesh and Meza. And for compLexity, it's not a fast on Kings Row as there's no time remaining, but they do finish out the map against the leading team here in the OCS. So it's not necessarily a bad beginning for compLexity either.
Not at all. They don't have to be D-Cop and Bishu. They have to just position themselves right, not be liabilities, and let Torque and Nicholas dictate if compLexity can win or not. That's always been their win condition. It's also been their loss condition, unfortunately, at sometimes. But Torque and Nicholas, after a shaky start by Nicholas, had some good plays. Torque especially found his high ground. Most of their giant team fights were off of his visor, so they don't have to be world beaters, and I think that's actually smart. They shouldn't try to do too much.
So I'm going to completely caster curse Nicholas here, but in giving him a little bit of praise, I will say that he's kind of gotten out of his habit of dying first early on Tracer, like he used to do. That used to be a thing for him where he would go out and basically Jake himself harder than Jake did in that last game.
Well,
now that I said this, watch him run into a hook from Vol in the first 2 seconds.
Watch him
lose the point.
Watch him run into a Fire Strike. Oh wait, that already happened the first time around. But you're right, he did adjust after that, after blinking right into a Fire Strike. Jake onto the McCree, which we saw be so electric yesterday, both literally and figuratively. They're going to try to rotate around top side, and of course Train is with him to provide him with that Diva Matrix.
Well, the upside here with Jake on the McCree is that it is going to be applying a lot more pressure to Nicholas, who did have a good first round attack. So Nicholas gonna have more threats in his way, has to look out for the flashbang, has to look out for the pressure as Jake slowly working his way around. He's taking the stairs here, X, but he's gonna have great positioning here in just a moment as compLexity kind of struggling to set the terms of this fight. Though Super coming very close to falling. But Rob 420 on the case will be able to heal him up, and he already has Nano Boost, so here comes Super. He's boosted in. Jake in over the top, and Hammers right now, or LG Evil, they've found a way through here, X.
No one is on Jake. Initially, they sent Train up there to protect him, and then they didn't even notice when Train left and left Jake up there all alone. Train went down to join the fight as the D.Va, but I think they thought Jake's up there with D.Va, can't do anything about it, completely ignored him the rest of the fight.
So for me, the key part there was Super and Rob 420, where Super got very, very low, but he was able to pull himself out of the fight just long enough for Rob 420 to get on the case and heal him up. If either of them was a little bit desynced on that play, Super ends up dying, and compLexity very well could have won that fight.
Absolutely. Torque is up top. He's just going to deny the high ground, try to lay something in over top. Has to be careful, though, at 175. He can get double tapped by a McCree. So, I don't love this positioning here, but he's probably just looking for a little poke. Should be getting out. D.Va's going to come in looking for him, so now he definitely has to get out.
Torque, this is not a fight he wants to take. Does not want to live in the enemy's matrix, so to speak. But here comes the Earth Shatter in from compLexity. Hits 2 immediately and sets up Torque for a mammoth tack visor coming in. Takes down 3 with the aid of that Nano Boost. And what more can you say there? Meza having a really good Earth Shatter to set up compLexity.
That's a great Earth Shatter for him. Very nice for them. And they're going to rotate up to this high ground, trying to be...
This feels like a Trix commercial in reverse. It's supposed to be compLexity being spawn camped, not the other way around. And this is why compLexity's still fighting a way of dying by spawn doors. Just this time, they're the ones bringing the fight to the spawn.
Look at all the free push they're giving up, though. Like, now this card is moving with 3x on it. Torque's behind the lines.
Well, they lost 3 people immediately, and they lose presence on the cart. Silly Wabbit, Tricks are for kids. Spawn camping is for teams against compLexity, not the other way around.
Well, spawn camping has traditionally been for Evil and Renegades, who we'll see later tonight, not to mention Selfless, who are probably the best at it, to be honest. But that is so much free push they got. That aggressive defense did not work out at all for compLexity, as LG Evil is loaded with ultimates. Jake's going to try to get a little tricky angle here, maybe try to get one of his Deadeyes off behind the lines. He has to deal with a Pharah now.
Self-destruct going into the back. Doesn't get anything as compLexity now trying to take the fight back in. Soundbearer in early for them, but Soundbearer also out for LG Evil. Jake going for the high noon, but the Justice a little bit higher, directly in his face, taking him down. 3-1 in favor of compLexity, and Nicholas should be able to just finish out this final on a kill. Rob 420 getting dunked on over the top.
It's an interesting switch from Nicholas to run this directly into Jake's McCree, which they knew was out there already, but showing success so far. It's not a matchup that is an auto win by any means. It depends on your positioning a lot. It depends how aggressive you want to get. I think Nicholas is going to focus on Jake, force him to make the shots. McCree isn't necessarily going to hit 100% of his shots that he has to. If you focus him down and you hit yours, you can win that fight.
The other thing, too, is that while McCree can work on second King's Row, I'm not really in love with it compared to the last. I think that the sight lines are not always favorable to him. He's not getting the same target coverage that you get on other parts of the map. So, I mean, Jake can make it work, but I think there could be better choices. But either way, next fight here coming online as Nicholas right now taking a little bit of detour to the backline, and they find Vol immediately. Vol very much caught out as the rest of LG Evil is coming in for the side. They were trying to sneak the payload.
They were trying to get to that back cap, but they do end up taking down Nicholas. That is a giant threat from this guy. Jake getting very low, is unable to get out. A nice right click there from Nesh, hits him around the corner.
They're so close to getting the payload right now. They're so incredibly close, but they're not able to do it. They're not able to knock it off, and that is unfortunate. Look at how close it is. You don't even see a meter marker anymore. That was very close to working. I like the idea, but compLexity catches it right in the nick of time.
compLexity has to be careful, because if they try that once, they will very likely try it again. They need some back push on this before they can feel comfortable rolling out. They are going to stay very close to the cart, so they do not want to get back capped. Smart, because I think, they're going to rotate up top and hope that compLexity wasn't there. However, compLexity spots them. Fight will take place right on the cart.
Well, this is where LG Evil, almost a must-win situation, minute 30 left here, but this is the time where we'll see if the self-destruct gets something. Train opens with it, he gets Nesh immediately. A very good over here, Nicholas, the counter punch coming into play. 2 dying to that barrage, and yet LG Evil, when the dust is settled, still with the man advantage. Torque right now fighting 1 versus 3, gonna get bionated. No more taking a breather for him. Gets slept, and now he gets healed by on the last month, but it's not enough to keep him alive. And yet, they still haven't gotten this point. It's still compLexity throwing bodies onto a point, but it's too little, too late. LG Evil will begin their final assault here on Kings Row last.
I think all we have to do to make people have great games is question what they did the day before, because Super with another monster Earth Shatter breaks through that second point for him, as yesterday he was getting focused so hard. Wasn't the weak link necessarily, but he's one of the ways you can beat them. So far, he has crushed it for this team today. Train comes and gets torqued. Already, here comes a whole hog from Vol in the backside. 2 go down. Both supports down from LG Evil, but no one else.
And that's enough here for LG Evil as far as this goes. They're going to have presence on the payload. Vol has certainly ensured that, and this is going from bad to worse. compLexity feeding extra bodies onto a point that's going to feed LG Evil's ultimates, and Hex, they're well positioned for this final fight.
And Ana's going to be able to get back in the fight because Avast died with her, so that he will surf her out, speed boost her back, and so they are going to have 6 on this last.
Well, compLexity, as they come out here, they have to open with the sound barrier and take a more aggressive position. And they need to do it quickly before Avast gets his up as well. They don't realize that they're under that sound pressure, but here we go. Sound barrier comes out here from compLexity. Now they're looking for a fall through, but Super drops the hammer, gets the immediate kill in the torque, and the sound barrier has done very little for compLexity, Hex. They have not gotten the kills they're looking for. 65 here for LG Evil as Super now going on a rampage.
We thought Jake might be the carry for this, but this is vintage hammers. Now LG Evil, as Super is getting the fraggy treatment, support in his back pocket, does not know what a shield is, just swinging through, and they are cleaning this up. They will finish with 1 minute and 8 seconds left.
That is incredibly big because compLexity used every bit of time, and because LG Evil has 1 minute and 1 second left, compLexity does not get an attack here. That's it. The only team that gets an attack is the side of LG Evil. So this is very rough now for compLexity because they're effectively playing for the draw and playing for the chance to bring this to a tiebreaker later on in the night if necessary. So LG Evil, 1 minute and 8 to win Kings Row outright, and what has been much closer than I think anyone really expected coming in.
Much closer than I thought, but we had to get eyes on these new tank players. Look, when you replace a third of your roster and you're playing against a team that's undefeated in a tournament, no one expects you to be able to go toe versus toe with them, and oddly enough, compLexity has. Nesh and Meza both had pretty big plays, some finishing kills, not necessarily enormous plays, but enough. It's been enough.
Well, now I just kind of want compLexity to pick up a sister team now because they give it a great naming scheme. You can have compLexity 4+2 and compLexity 6 because this is effectively big compLexity's life here where every week they have a new 2 people on their roster. They have 4 people solidified and then 2 people that are vagabonds.
Vagabond's a great word. It's a pleasure to hear your vocabulary, CP. Super is just taking a look up top, although he has run a Widow before, I think momentarily. He's going to switch off onto Reinhardt. Train will be on the Diva, of course. Jake now on the Soldier 76. He plays every DPS hero. He plays every hero, really.
Jake is very talented. We saw him, of course, play tons of Roadhog back during the 4-tank meta. In fact, saw it a little bit in the Overwatch month of Melee, but now he's going to be on the 76, and this is where LG Evil doesn't have that much buffer room. They have maybe 2 good attacks if they go in right now. They're taking their time with this attack, though, coming over the top. Here they go. It's going to be Super dropping onto the point first. He's getting supported and healed up, but he's still in rough shape. He's going to go down. He oversells his advantage, but Meza also going to fall. Both Reinhardt's out of play here. And trading out generally good for the offense. LG Evil does not have that much time, Hex.
No, I don't know if these trades are really going to come into effect as Nicholas has put it on. He's got his 4th kill now in this fight, perhaps 3rd. But that is complete compLexity domination.
And now for LG Evil, they have 13 seconds left to close out Kings Row here, or it will be a draw. Jake, still alive in the back, drawing a bit of attention, but the rest of LG Evil needs to rush onto the point. If Jake has to go down onto it himself, it's not going to be good. Nicholas, Pulse Bomb at the ready, looking for the stick. Will stick Super, goodbye and good night. Nicholas now looking for the Ana kill, might get it. It's a double kill here for Nicholas, and he might have just slammed the door in LG Evil's face, Hex.
It's been all Nicholas. Torque is going to come in with the tack visor, but that's so effective because Nicholas was able to take down the Reinhardt shield earlier. He came alive there, looking great. And that is all she wrote for Kings Row, and an unusual draw.
Kings Row, not a map that you see going to draws quite as often as some of the other maps, but we are going to be going to an Assault map next, which statistically has had far more draws in the tournament. So we'll see where it goes, but just broad strokes here. Did this look good on compLexity's new pickups, or was it the compLexity Old Guard showing up? Because I feel like the compLexity Old Guard had a very good game.
It was Nicholas and Torque, but I think a lot of that can be credited to the tanks. When the tanks are in position and allowing you to make those plays, they can absolutely show up. But I think most of that last defense was just Nicholas. Nicholas playing out of his mind.
Well, and he got a key pickup onto Shake in the back, which was huge. And then you said it, the attack visor came out, and well, what else are you going to do? Another key that to success, I feel like, is they did tend to focus Super down. There were a few times when whether Super was out of position or they were just doing a good job of focusing him, and then the TJO guys, they just went to town. Well,
conversely, too, I think Rob 420 really had split attention there because Super was not getting healed up immediately like he usually does. Now, I think part of that is that we did have Jake deep diving a lot, and you want to keep Jake alive in those situations, but Super was getting bopped around quite a bit in this matchup, which you don't usually see. But as you mentioned, it was good focus fire coming out here from compLexity, and credit where credit is due. Don't forget, LG Evil is the premier team right now in the OCS. They are undefeated. So for compLexity, that's dealing with all sorts of roster issues this entire time, to come out, lay down the gauntlet, and get the tie, that's actually very good for them.
Yeah.
They are undefeated, and they've only lost 3 maps this entire time. 2 of those maps are on Control, or rather Assault, which will be our next map type.
Yeah, and I'd like to continue to look at these new guys in Nash and Meza. They played Genji and Winston to start this one off. Didn't feel as good as when they were playing the Reinhardt and the various off tanks that Nash was able to pull out. Some diva play there, and then as well as a nice grab that comboed well with Nicholas on that Pharah. We do have the next map. It is Temple of Anubis, but how does a draw here in the first map affect this moving forward as far as these teams go?
It might wake LG Evil up. They did play sloppier there than I'm used to seeing them. Jake especially was out, but I do want to give credit where credit is due to compLexity. I thought they played great, but it could be a wake-up call. I think the reason we're seeing Anubis, even though it's a map they've lost twice in the tournament, is how well they played it yesterday.
True, and I will note one thing in regards to tiebreakers here is that anytime it goes to a tiebreaker, there is an inherent advantage to LG Evil because they have been the strongest control team in the tournament, especially. I mean, their control performance has been very, very good. So if they have to win a map by going to a best of 1 in control, I think that they're pretty happy with that outcome. So for compLexity, even though it looks good as an organization that they played LG Evil this close, it's also not great for winning the series because now they have to take a control round away from LG Evil should that tiebreaker be necessary when all the maps are played.
Yeah, well, we're going to see, I mean, on Temple of Anubis, a few things that we have seen in the past from these two teams. I mean, Nicholas does really like to play that Mei on second. They're really good at delaying things out, but what else are we going to see from them? What do they have on first? Because we haven't seen a lot of great performances from them on first.
Well, compLexity on first can play the Widow. They've done that several times. Nicholas and Torque can both play the Widow, so it gives them a lot of versatility. But a lot of first pushes can come up to your tanks and your Reinhardts if they're going to run that. I'd be surprised, given this roster, given what we know of these players, if they run something like a forward DPS or a dive. I think we might see a much more standard 2-2-2 compLexity team today.
Very likely. And also Temple Anubis, again, it's going to be hard to say until we actually see what they're running here with Nesh and Meza because there might be certain nuances or wrinkles that they throw in that is unique to these two players. So it's a little bit harder to speculate compLexity. As is with teams, when they change up one player, you have to scratch your head a little bit. When you swap up 2, you're in an entirely different ballgame, especially when it is focusing more on the tank side of things.
Yeah, and because they wanted to play Genji and Winston starting off King's Row, and that just didn't work out. So, I mean, do you come back to that with confidence and say, you know, it didn't work on King's Row, but I think it's going to work here? The question will be answered here soon as we are going into Temple of Anubis with the series still 0-0. And actually, statistically speaking, I think compLexity has the most draws. They had 2 in 1 match, I think, in week 1, if I'm remembering correctly, and we have seen a number of them. That was, of course, the match that compLexity did end up coming back to win. Against Renegades, actually. Yeah, that was the one loss for Renegades. And so compLexity, they want to do it against LG Evil here, and they're going to start on a Temple of Anubis.
Of course, we find ourselves on Temple of Anubis again. We haven't really been visiting Hanamura a whole lot recently, Hex. We saw it a bit in week 1, and then since then, pretty quiet on that front.
A lot of teams struggled taking Hanamura last. It's where we saw a lot of draws. Very difficult. You either have to take top ground, and then the respawns are right there. We saw teams attempting 4 DPS to try to take less, and that didn't work out. So it seems teams have fallen into a bit more comfortable zone with Anubis. LG Evil ran Jake on McCree yesterday, and it was absolutely amazing what they did on the offense. Electric Cowboy came to life, so that's something that compLexity has to be worried about.
All right, and take a look at this defense coming out here from the side of LG Evil, who is on the defense again. And they're going to be running the same setup here where they are going to be setting up with 3 tanks. But Jake, in this case, rather than diving in as a flanker, he will be running in as a 76. There is a slight switch up there, Hex, and I kind of like it. I've never really been totally in favor of Jake being the Lone Ranger for flanks.
I tend to agree with you, but they're still going to just make him rotate to the high ground, I'd imagine. Him and Train are going to be hanging out for the most part right there. But Torque onto the Widowmaker as we predicted. Nesh on the Genji. They are going dive composition. We'll see how it works with these new players.
And this is where for Torque, he's very much looking for Jake. Conversely, Jake, now that he's hearing the Widow shots, he's not going to have quite as much freedom as a 76. He has to respect the sight lines that are coming in. And you see right now that Torque is actually having some trouble finding those initial sight lines, and he's going to get trained right in his face.
Yes, they're trying to take down the top ledge right there, which has been a large area of contention. Nesh goes down to super immediately in this room, but here comes Nicholas trying to take it back. He finds 1. Can he find 2? No, not quite.
Does not find 2 indeed, and again, we see this a lot from LG Evil, where they're very willing to come in and counter flank on the defense, even running something very tanky like they're running just now. But I will say, credit where credit's due to Jake. Jake is playing very disciplined here, as Torque does find the Vost, but he's not really getting any chances to find Jake. Look at how Jake is set up.
Or not at all. So Diva's going to have to come in and deal with it with a little bit of style, as is Train's way. Mezzer takes down Vol on the ground. They did take a lot of Widow's time there.
Well, Torque now putting on the fire, has taken out both supports of this fight, and Jake, one of the last ones alive, gonna have to expose himself soon, but no, Nesh takes him down. So really, for LG Evil, they just get picked apart on all sides here. No flashy big initiation, just good, solid mechanical picks coming out here from compLexity, and that's gonna earn them point A.
Off of the Widow now as they go back to switch. Nicholas still on the Pharah getting damage boosted, trying to pepper in some damage. Torque is going to switch instead to the Reaper. This is a composition, or at least the Reaper is, which we saw Liquid run to great success.
I think this is where compLexity was clearly taking notes and said, hey, this is working out for Liquid. Why can't it work out for us? Train, meanwhile, on the defensive Sombra, takes down Nicholas immediately. Of course, Nicholas was pretty damaged to begin with, but it is a bit of cleanup. 2 kills here from LG Evil, and we do have the rest coming in here with compLexity. So they're actually throwing themselves all in on this, but I don't agree with this. They did so little damage in the beginning that throwing a res here feels like good money after bad. They're just going to be feeding even more ultimates to this LG Evil machine.
Well, they may want to switch off of it, so that might be the thinking, but also why you're running a Mercy if you're not going to try to res onto last. I do see your thought process there, but
for me, I think the best use of Resurrection, it's not to just reset the fight. You want reset fight where you've got maybe 1, 2 pickoffs and you can get a little bit of momentum there. They rezzed really having no advantage in that fight whatsoever, and all that means is that you have a bunch of people out of position now that can immediately get bopped once more.
Well, they are going to switch. You make a valid point there. They are going to switch off of that Mercy onto Ana instead. Nesh is running the offensive Mei, maybe to get some room in here, maybe just for Blizzard. Could be good to knock them off the point as well, but an interesting pick as we don't see offensive Mei here very often.
I do like the idea of offensive Mei. It's not so much to split people off, it is entirely for the Blizzard. Might be a little bit more effective with the changes, but see Torque coming in. Here comes the EMP though from Train. Going to be locking out compLexity of their abilities, a taste of their own medicine from back when they used to run Sombra all the time, and the EMP sets up things pretty well. It's gonna be 5 kills here from LG Evil. A few members of compLexity still in and around, but nothing they can do as Winston tumbles through the air.
Well, now the problem is they don't have a whole lot to push in with. Conversely, they have 4.5 minutes to continue this push. Jake loves this ledge up here. Offense, defense, McCree, 76, does not matter. That's where he hangs out on Anubis. So far, we haven't seen exactly what the plan is with this Mei.
Well, he pays rent there the 15th of every month, so he's very much attached to that spot, Hex. I mean, it has good shade. It's good breeze.
A lot of times you used to see Reapers go up there. Notably, they are off of that Reaper. Nicholas is on a Pharah instead. They are getting up close to a barrage. I think that primary target has to be Jake.
Well, here comes compLexity now committing to this team fight. They try and go for a split up here, and they do split up super a little bit, but Jake over the top. Nano Visor just ending this push in a horrific fashion. Can't have a better vantage point than that. No way of compLexity shielding out. Oh no. Mei is wishing for sweet death. Oh, the elevator. This is gonna cause Jake to still stagger it for a little bit longer.
They're toying with her.
Poor Nesh.
It's Mei. I mean, poor Nesh, yeah, but it's Mei.
Is it impossible to have sympathy for Mei?
Some would say yes.
I would not disagree.
All right, well, the defense now in a pretty good spot yet again. Despite having used 2 ultimates for that, they've got several of them available. One of the combos that can be game-breaking is EMP into self-destruct if it is timed perfectly. They have that available. Train perhaps going to look for this EMP right now.
Oh, he's going for the EMP right into the back line. It's a great EMP. Hits almost everyone in this fight. And Nesh just getting bopped in the back. Can't ice block when you're hacked. Apparently, the ice systems that May employs do actually require user interface.
There's a little robot that helps her out, perhaps very susceptible to the EMP. This Sombra defense has looked a lot better than it did yesterday, completely denying actually getting a lot more damage done to than it did yesterday as well. So defense has been holding strong. Still 3 minutes remain for the offense to try to push in, and now they're entering a window in which they can push in much stronger. A lot of their ultimates are going to be online, including Blizzard, which will be the first time she's had that up.
And for Nesh right now, this is where they are going to really be committing to this. The idea being that Blizzard will let them maybe start a snowball. No pun intended, though it will get pretty frosty. But here we go. Fight is going underway. And let's keep an eye on Nesh here as he looks to land this Blizzard. If he forces it too much, he's not going to get a whole lot from it, though, so he can't use it super early. But Eva's going to get frozen, and here comes the Blizzard. And, oh, Super stuck between a rock and a hard place. Barrage coming in, but he's still able to live. The Barrage perhaps a little bit overextended, but there's the hammer coming down from Super. Going to be knocking down 3. It might have gotten chilly here, Hex, but not chilly enough as CLG Evil bringing this right back.
Unable to finish that kill on Super, another big mistake that they could not get. Now, I think maybe the D.Va came in and ate the last half of that barrage, which is why he might have been able to live through it. But had they killed him there, the Earth Shatter doesn't come down. They don't get cleaned up there. I guess tiny silver lining, they have their own Earth Shatter incoming, but none of these fights have even looked close for compLexity, ZP.
compLexity only gets 2 more cracks at this. I think this next push is going to be more of a junk push, although arguably this is the time when they should try it because LG Evil doesn't have that much. I just don't think they have that information. Either way, they're going to go to some point. Then the Earth Shatter does connect. Meza knocks down 2, goes for the charge right after, connects on those 2 kills, and suddenly there's life here for compLexity off of this opportunity as Jake gets booped right off the edge. You have to run a bit to the side here, and compLexity starting to get a more important presence here on the point, and yet LG Evil here have still stalling.
They are still stalling. Jacob's been out in no man's land doing not much. Now compLexity adds 2 kills and both supports down as well, so that is going to be no sustain on the point. Jake does take down Nicholas, trying to bring this back. Got to see some blue in that kill feed.
While Jake is still up and around here, but he is horrifically outnumbered as compLexity is just turning it into a kill fest here on the point. Everyone that's running in is immediately getting knocked back. They almost have it. 1 more tick away, just a little bit, but it's contested. You can't even see the sliver anymore. LG Evil suddenly very much on the hot seat here. 42 seconds remaining, so it's going to be hard for them to actually drain the remaining time off the clock. They have to stay on. Here comes the finishing Graviton and Earth Shatter. Goodbye. Potentially good night, but no, Jake comes in from the back, but it's D.Va. The defensive matrix stops him from getting anything on that attack visor. And yet LG Evil, they're still draining the clock here, Hex.
They are still draining the clock. It is now below 20 seconds, even though this fight started at about 1:30 left. But you mentioned that they should maybe go into that window if they knew. I think they were counting ultimates there because they threw everything they had at it, the Earth Shatter and the Nano. It was the only 2 that they really had up, able to complete that. And then towards the end, Zarya at full charge, simply denying the D.Va any sort of stall. It's really great to have that up, especially going into Assault last, where you know the D.Va is going to be there just to be able to melt her down quickly. So they close out the map, 20 seconds left. LG, of course, yesterday had one of the fastest times I've ever seen on Anubis. They ended it with, I think, like 7 minutes in their bank on their next push.
6:57.
Yeah.
So not quite 7 minutes, but about as close as you get.
Forgive me.
Which, by the way, means that on their second attack, they almost get the full 8 minutes again because you get 30 bonus seconds for capturing first.
Right.
So it was breathtakingly fast. And if you were a fan of the Electric Cowboy, if you were a fan of just cowboys in general in rustic, sandy environments, if you want to get your Indiana Jones fix, well, look no further than Jake. He is a much better Indiana Jones than Shia LaBeouf could ever hope to be.
Oh, now you think it looks like Indiana Jones.
I'm stealing your material.
Yeah,
What can I say? I
clearly.
am shamelessly stealing your material and then enhancing it by taking pot shots at Shia LaBeouf, which everyone can appreciate.
Actual cannibal Shia LaBeouf?
Yeah.
All right.
Just do it.
All right, LG Evil now on the attack. Of course, we were talking about Jake and his McCree yesterday, hence the talk of the Indiana Jones. They're making a 5th one, they announced yesterday.
Oh, no.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, is the corpse of Harrison Ford going to be in it?
Harrison Ford looks surprisingly good for his age. All right. Anyway, LG Evil is going to be queued up right now on several snipers, so that's not going to hold. On the defense, do you see anything out of the ordinary there, ZP?
Well, from the defensive end, not really. I mean, they are going to be running much more heavier dive into this LG Evil squad, and I do think Nesh could cause some problems here for Jake. I think when Jake sees the Diva, he might get off the McCree in this situation. We'll see. It depends on the success on this very first push, but I think it is going to give McCree more trouble than LG Evil might be hoping for.
Well, this composition is centered around Jake, as many of the LG Evil's compositions are. They're going to rotate up to the high ground, as I was expecting them doing. Jake's just going to have free reign back here, and if he gets in trouble, Diva's just going to sit in front. But Avast peeks a little too much, and Torque hits him.
Boss going down immediately, and compLexity trying to bring this back. The problem is for compLexity is that they did give up a lot of ground, but Nesh right into Jake's face as we were speculating her land, but Super is still in this fight, so I don't think there's going to be quite enough trade out here for the offense, although Train looking to make me wrong here as he picks up another, and this is actually going to unsettle compLexity quite a bit, and I'll tell you who's not unsettled. Jake is still holding on to that McCree.
3 kills should be enough for them to get back in and feel like they're at an advantage at the very least positionally. As they do come in, they notice exactly where they are. Vol has to get out there very quickly, but you rarely see a team hold back like this. They're waiting for reinforcements.
They are waiting for reinforcements, and Torque hoping to build up the rest of TechVisor at Roadhog's expense. Not going to happen immediately here, but here comes Nicholas. He's the X Factor. Coming in over the top. Barrage immediately removing a boss from the equation. But Jake in over the top. Cowboy acting as anti-air as Jake again gonna fall here. The Nesh, who is very clearly on anti-Jake duty.
Sometimes you feel when you get solo ulted, it's a compliment, but poor Avast. They are still in this now. Whole Hog is at the ready too. Both of the tanks are still up. A beautiful hook takes down Shake. That should lead to a couple more trades. Here comes Avast looking for vengeance.
Avast does get back in, gets down the Torque. Doesn't really matter too much in the end, as LG Evil is able to just trade out more efficiently there. It wasn't a case where they easily won the fight, but compLexity was not able to pick up the kills they needed. I will note that Nesh is pretty effective at neutralizing Jake, and I'm a little surprised Jake is still on McCree here, but I think they will be going for at least one round of Electric Cowboy. Perhaps.
Well, Rob is pretty far away from that, and yes, Ana charges her ultimate quickly, but Electric Cowboy, of course, Nano Boost plus Deadeye, or just Nano Boost plus McCree can do so much damage, gives him the sustainability that he needs. Jake's gonna come in here, trying to take his perch back, misses his second jump, unfortunately, but Torque goes down.
Torque can fall immediately here as Jake will have a little bit more room to work with, but again, he's going to get a tank right in his face. Oh no, this is the worst feeling in the world when Primal Rage is just juggling you helplessly, but he gets support from the rest of his team, so he's going to get a second chance at life here, Primal Rage or no. And the Deadeye, very ill-advised there. That was not going to work out. Torque with a special delivery as compLexity now reinforcing the point. The bulk of the offense here from LG Evil getting removed from the equation. And at what point do you swap from this McCree? Because I gotta say, he's been under so much pressure here from the tank play of compLexity. Usually Nesh, but there, Meza was getting into the equation. Hasn't been great.
It hasn't. He was able to set it up, but didn't see Torque out of the respawn because the Winston had juggled him so long. I will say Train must have some sort of sixth sense alert system. Maybe it's just comms, I don't know. But he's always Johnny on the spot whenever that McCree is in trouble. It just comes out of nowhere to try to save him. So they're going to stick on it for now, perhaps letting Jake build up yet another Deadeye. Builds very quickly, and this time they would have the Nano Boost to go with it.
Vol looking for an early pickoff here if he can get the rest of LG Evil getting to point. This whole Hog going to be clearing out space here, might even help them to get a tick if compLexity is not careful. They're very much off the point. The Meza coming back in. No Earth Shatter because he just swapped. Torque gonna try and turn this back with the TechVisor, looking for early kills, but not a great position for it. Gonna be getting zoned out a bit as Train connects. Nicholas out. A big source of stall is gone, and now that the fight is breaking down, this is where Jake can really turn things back in his favor. McCree very good at cleaning up fights as they break down. Torque gonna take a snooze in the back as LG Evil now in a very good position to start putting progress onto this point.
The Whole Hog early to initiate that fight, what I think was in large part to break the shield and, as you mentioned, positioning to put them in that corner. They have a great advantage right now as Jake should be able to clean up people who are just running out. Very good, as you mentioned, when the fight breaks down. Fanning that hammer takes down Meza.
Ooh. I haven't seen that much fan in a very long time, but Jake gonna use the Deadeye here more for zoning. Hasn't had a great record with Deadeyes, but does connect to Nesh at the very end. He's not able to break line of sight, and suddenly Jake is unleashed. 3 kills here from Jake. He has found his groove again here on McCree, and that is gonna be LG Evil capping the point with 4:13 remaining, Hex. A dominant time advantage here for the side of LG Evil.
I feel like it's a little bit of like early Bioshock where you got Diva's Big Daddy coming in every time someone's in trouble. Always around the corner, even that last Zarya kill, to get around the corner, make sure that Jake is safe. Train has one job, make Jake safe.
Make Jake safe again. So, yeah, I mean, it was interesting, too, because Jake was very much under heavy pressure throughout most of the game, and yet I think the key thing to me is that it wasn't so much about the McCree to even get a first pick off, but once they got into a situation where they did have a good 5v4 opportunity, Jake was able to take advantage of the Ashes, really take down people as they tried to get back onto the point, finish off the people that were remaining on the point, and McCree, that's not under pressure, arguably one of the most deadly heroes in the entire game.
Probably better at cleanup than even a Tracer at that level, simply because the time to kill is a little bit quicker. One headshot down, next target, keep feeding me, and you saw it work so well. This is exactly what we saw them run yesterday with the McCree, so it shouldn't have been a surprise to compLexity, but even when you're not surprised by this LG Evil team and what they're running, very hard to defend against them. Defense will be played by LG Evil now this time around with a large advantage in their time bank. Already under a minute for compLexity. Very likely only one good push here unless they die very quickly.
Well, this is where a lot of pressure is going to be on Torque again to find the proper sight lines. And again, you take a look at LG Evil's position here. They're not really giving Torque the position he wants. He has to wait on the rest of his team to make an opportunity, and he finds Train in his face once more, so that's going to take Torque out of the equation for a little bit here as the rest of compLexity looks to wait for a way in, but oh, Jake gets bopped by Torque right there immediately. 3 kills here for compLexity, and compLexity, even though they only had 1 minute here, Hex, very likely to start getting onto this point, and who knows how their attempt on last will go.
Well, Torque is simply cleaning up. We talked about Jake's cleanup, but Jake in an unadvantageous position gets booped by Torque early on, and they want to push forward with Torque on this Widow. He switched off immediately after they kept first last time, but feeling the groove, and with only 30 seconds, why not stick on it?
Well, I'm looking at the Widow here. I mean, it is more of a gamble here on last, but if he gets even one, that could be huge, as he was looking for Jake. Jake immediately recognizing the threat, gets out. No, Jake is challenging him. That's dangerous. Train going to get rid of the threat here in the back, at least forcing him back. But while Train is doing this, Train isn't helping the rest of his team, which means the Rust is far less safe as Rob is going to go down. So they draw Train out of the fight.
Nice hack, though. It's beautiful to kill Shake there.
He kills Jake. They're not, or Shake. They're not going to have to worry about the res anymore. And it's actually Train on the Sombra being the X factor and pulling this back. Another hack coming in towards the very end, but Nicholas with another kill. LG Evil arguably in the hot seat here. Respawn still coming in fast, but look at Torque in the backline here, Hex. Uncontested pressure from Widowmaker. This could be huge for compLexity, but unfortunately, they're not able to get through the Reinhardt setup there. We'll see. I mean, they still have a chance of taking this.
They're pressuring it in. Look at Shake. He flies back on this fight. He's going to have Resurrection if he stays alive. He does not. Vol takes him down again.
That is unfortunate for Shake, but compLexity still piling on here on some point. They don't even have a third yet, but they still have potential of a reflected sleep dart. But you can go for all the style you want. If you're not on the point, it does not matter.
Oh, man. All right, so 1 point taken, which is actually pretty good when you only have a minute left. Meant your first attack won off the back of Torque's Widow. Did a lot of work towards the end. Shake dying there at 100% Resurrection really hurts as they got him back into the fight late.
Anytime you can isolate a Mercy out like that and stop those game-breaking reses, you're having a good time. Although I do think LG Evil kind of got away with one there. They were playing a little bit sloppy. compLexity was punishing them with on-point Widow play coming out here from Torque, and for LG Evil, they, on some respects, should be thanking themselves that they're not down 2-4 right now. I will say on a completely random note, because my mind is going to strange places today, Hex, I really want a Baker hero in Overwatch, because then you could put Jake on that hero, and Jake could make cake.
We had Shake and Bake yesterday. Now Jake makes cake. I don't know how much more I can take.
I actually was not prepared.
I was not prepared either. You brought me here. All right? You brought me here.
I share responsibility, but oh man.
All right. Well,
the places Overwatch brings us.
Yeah, it's early, my friend. We need to pull it together a little bit. We got a lot of games.
It's still 0-0 technically.
We got a lot of games yet to go through today. It might be 0-0 after this. So we will see 4 minutes to take point 1, and then we are playing with house money for LG Evil as they would try to take point 2, and we'll see how it goes here. Of course, composition not changing at all. Jake's hello game still on point. No surprise where they want to set up. Over top behind Shields is where Jake's going to try to get some picks early on. Behind D.Va, behind Reinhardt, totally safe. Has to try to take down this combo. Gets one shot in early. Now just has to break that Winston bubble. So far, Bloodless, Avast has gotten his vengeance. There goes Meza.
And this is where Jake is just hiding off in the corner. Will draw Nicholas's attention, but I don't know if Nicholas wants this attention as he's going to fall to the combined fire of Jake and Train. And now LG Evil, lots of uncontested momentum here, going to easily take this point. Torque just basically throwing his life to the winds there. Now, the one downside is that they took this so quickly here, Hex, that they're not going to have a lot of ults going into second, but neither will compLexity, so they do have a window of opportunity.
Yeah. You say that, but there's a lot of people around 80%. Of course, that's Rob, Jake, and Super. That would be a combo that would work very well if they can just get a little chip damage in as they enter. Jake is making sure that no one is squatting in his ledge up there so that he can jump in and take it over. So far, no one is. They know that's where he likes to go, though. You saw them targeting down very early when they were playing Widow. He's still going to get up there.
It's Jake's special place. There's no other way of saying it, but you do see Torque right now looking for the flanking tack visor. Meanwhile, the rest of LG Evil going near the top. Jake under pressure here, will get healed up, but the tack visor does come in. It's late to the fight, and I'm not in love with the position. Super diving right in. This room's going to become a party here in a moment. 3-1 in favor of LG Evil as they are catching compLexity all sorts of off guard. And really, I don't like that tack visor at all. It's just bad.
Not great. That would be an understatement. Vol comes in, whole hog with a couple of kills. Now looking for the cleanup. They do. Oh, misses that shot. That could be big. He wanted to get that Mei, had the flashbang on her.
And this is where Jake can shine. This is full-on cleanup here. It's up to LG Evil to complete the submission hold and keep compLexity off of this point. compLexity now struggling, hoping for a miracle before they have to tap out, but 2 ticks here, about to be the third. LG Evil making it look easy at the end. compLexity find themselves a bit out of sorts.
Just rolled through. It's exactly what we saw from LG Evil yesterday on their second attack, actually. Just unstopped, unfettered aggression. Jake's McCree has been beautiful to watch. It's not like LG has beaten anyone with deception or trickery, or, you know, as a former president would say, trickeration. They're running just...
Was that an actual thing that he said at one point?
It might be. Maybe it was Will Ferrell as him. Very possible.
It's those things where it's like, I can't tell if you made that up or
Well,
not.
if you can't tell, that doesn't even matter.
Yeah.
Regardless, that is LG Evil taking the first definitive map of the evening.
And my main question coming out of Temple of Anubis is, how do you deal with Jake? We've asked it about his Pharah, and I think teams have gotten a little bit of a hang of that. But now teams are going to have to figure out, how do we deal with Jake on McCree?
Well, I think the real upside to the McCree, and we saw it on their first attack in particular, is that I don't think the strength in the McCree is initially getting the point. Even though we did see a great Electric Cowboy play just yesterday on Anubis, I think the real strength in that is that it helps you finish out the point. Where if you do get a good early opening, McCree is going to be the hammer that slams the door shut on the other team. So I think that's the real power for what Jake was going for there, and it certainly worked out.
2 things. You have to give him the Grim Reality treatment that LG Evil gives Grim Reality. You just send a D.Va at him all the time. You make his life miserable and uncomfortable. You decide immediately, we're not going to lose to Jake. Someone else has to beat us. 2, we talk about resources a lot when Mercy and Pharah are together, but you have to look at Jake on 76 or Jacob McCree and train with him on D.Va as 2 resources that you have to devote 2 people to deal with. I don't know exactly what combination of heroes you have to do, but you have to make him uncomfortable. At this point, I give him the Grim treatment. I make anyone else on hammers or LG Evil try to beat me.
When we even asked, speaking of Grim, why aren't they doing this for Immortals? I mean, you've got a great D.Va player, you've got Grim Reality, because they've been struggling to make that work, and maybe they're just trying some new things. A few other heroes that we saw played on defense here, 3 heroes that I want to just touch on. Well, first of all, Nicholas played Pharah on first and had a barrage where he was able to pick up 1 kill, and then he immediately went down. So how does Pharah work on defense, being so susceptible to dying during barrage?
I mean, you have to pick and choose your moments. He was the thought where he thought he could get away with barrage. He clearly did not get away with barrage, and that's a gamble that you take. I mean, worst case scenario there, you trade out for a support, which isn't necessarily bad. I mean, you know that you're working on something that's baseline, but you're hoping for the potential that you get the kill, get supported, or maybe pick up 2 kills because people aren't paying attention to you. But in the end, it clearly did not work out. But I mean, it's not necessarily bad they're unfair on defense. It's just a case where you do have to know the stakes when you finally do press that ultimate button.
I think running against that composition is just insanely difficult because, again, it's the D.Va and McCree, and I don't know what the answer is to that. Maybe a Roadhog to get the D.Va out of there so you can focus on the McCree, but you're not going to get any damage done on nearly anyone with how Train is playing that D.Va. He's everywhere. He's Johnny on the spot. He sees a barrage. Half of it comes down. Then here comes the Matrix, seemingly out of nowhere. He could be at the other side of the map. He's got warp tech in that mech.
Well, and I was thinking about, because you talk about using multiple resources, like who can deal with Train then on D.Va?
Right.
To get to McCree, and I actually thought Mei was an interesting option because, like, Zarya, you know, was focusing to try to get some damage through the barrier or the Matrix, and then like you can freeze D.Va, but then there's some definite drawbacks to playing Mei as well. And we even saw like one Blizzard, which was very predicted by LG Evil, that completely didn't get anything in that one.
I don't really fault them for trying the Blizzard. I think that Mei is probably a little bit chronically underplayed in regards to how effective that can be. It didn't work out, but I think it is worth noting here, and this is actually something that teams, especially in North America, tend to mess up from time to time, is that just because something doesn't work out or a strategy in theory has not been executed well doesn't mean that it actually isn't good. It just means that it didn't work out for that particular push. So I try not to pass judgment on different switch-ups we see if I can find a theoretical reason for doing so.
Yeah, and so we'll see. Maybe they can bring that out in a different way. The problem is that in a situation like that, you try it once, and if it doesn't work, well, you lost the point, and it's not like you can get many more shots at that. The only other hero that I want to talk about before we go into Nepal is defensive Sombra. It was used very well right now. Mixed success yesterday. How does that actually help you on that point specifically, second and news?
I think he was prioritizing hacking the right targets this time rather than focusing as much on the packs. He got mega below, but he wasn't doing the flank packs that he was yesterday, allowing himself to do more damage and chase people down. It seemed like his priorities were a little more in line with what I'd like them to be.
I would say the real benefit to Sombra, the stealth benefit as it were, no pun intended, is that for Sombra, what you're seeing from her is that she is a weapon in ultimate economy, because not only does she build her own ultimate very quickly, like it goes up fast, but you also have the dynamic there where if you run an EMP in a fight, you could win it so decisively that everyone else gets to save ultimates for that fight. So it gets you into a good chain of EMP this fight, normal ults next fight, EMP fight after. And for a last point like Anubis, where you have to not quite flawless it like you did before, but still win it pretty decisively, that can buy you a lot of time.
Well, if that is the reason to play Sombra on a point, we're probably not going to see very much Sombra on Nepal, as it's going to be a little bit less one time, one and done, and a lot more back and forth as we are going on to our third map between LG Evil and compLexity. LG Evil is only up 1-0 in the series, as the first map was a draw, but they're going to try to continue to gain small victories, leading towards hopefully a large victory as compLexity are fighting back to tie this series up here in Nepal.
Well, those are the sights and sounds of Nepal that you are seeing. That is a wonderful elephant, a great holy place here in the middle with a glowing ball of light. Just the sights and sounds of a place that is soon to be desecrated by war between compLexity and LG Evil.
An elephant you find at high elevation. Surprised we haven't seen them here in Denver. What's interesting mostly about this map is that it's the only control map that compLexity has won. They're 2-5 on control, both wins coming on Nepal.
Well, right now, LG Evil not really wasting a whole lot of time getting involved in here. Jake being very far up. Both Reinhardt's going to charge into each other, but it's Meza who pays the price early on. Although it's low going down here, 5v5, but take a look. LG Evil very much poking back compLexity here. Although that move almost sending him for a ride. Nicholas very close to pulling an ID there, but look at Jake here. He's going in off the flank once more, and this is going to open up opportunities for Train from the front.
Oh, he does get around back, but caught immediately. Torque with the clairvoyance, saw him coming. Nicholas with 2 kills. compLexity's taking this right back.
That's unfortunate when you go for the flank and it's so telegraphed that you have Roadhog waiting there with open arms and a hook. Really, the hook is the...
They saw... Well, I don't know if I want a hug from Roadhog either. Maybe.
He's cuddly.
Well, maybe when he's wearing the reindeer outfit. They saw him disappear to the right side towards Mega, and they didn't see him reappear, so that's exactly why they knew he was coming there, maybe a little too aggressive. Vol takes down Meza. Both tanks now down for compLexity, but Nicholas brings it back.
Nicholas, the barrage from above, but it's going to be Jake as anti-air duty, immediately removing him from the fight. Now LG Evil looking to put bodies onto that point. It's going up for them. They're going to recap this immediately, so relatively back and forth here between both teams. Jake going to go back with the rest of his team here. But compLexity, we'll see how they break through this here in a moment, because they don't have a whole lot to break this aside from the nano boost.
No, Jake in his position on the high ground behind the rest of his team has to be very careful here, trying to get that flashbang. He's nailed so many of those the last couple of days. Torque very low despite the nano boost.
Torque taking more damage than perhaps he was expecting there. Nano or no is Train looking for knockoffs here. Whole Hog coming into the corner. Does enough to take down Nesh with the aid of Vol. 2-1 here in favor of LG Evil, and this is a fight that compLexity simply must give up.
Yeah, it's been over for a bit since they were whole hogged in the corner. Surprised that they still got caught out in their pack room, but going to rebound is LG, reset up their defense. Vol has the Graviton, Super's got his. There's a lot of ults they have to push in here. compLexity would be best served trying to junk rush this, I think.
One would think here, but you take a look at LG Evil, they have a lot of ultimates up in this particular case, so we'll see if they use all of them. A good junk rush would work wonders. The Graviton's gonna come in, doesn't do as much as you might think. Meza actually is still in this, but both teams gonna drop the beat. compLexity trying to turn it, but it's Jake! It was high noon, despite it being low-high in the middle, whatever you want to say there, but hey, 2 kills off the Deadeye, a third finisher to finish things out. Jake, good positioning, able to win that fight for LG Evil.
Well, they traded out ults there. Both Earth Shatters, both Sound Barriers came down. Jake getting the best of it, though. He just hellos so often. He's got to be careful. The only time Jake is making mistakes is when he's playing too aggressive. However, that has been LG's style for quite a while.
I'm very curious where Jake is right now, if he really considered falling through that point. But meanwhile, Super just diving into Zarya here, making her life terrible as Nash just gets splattered against the walls. 2-1 here for LG Evil. This is 99%. This is do or die for compLexity, and they are choosing the option of die. Earthshatter comes down for good measure just to finish things out here. So compLexity, despite an early strike back, not able to come back in once more. LG Evil looking pretty strong.
So old LG Evil, when they were hammers, was known primarily for Super's hammer play. Constantly very aggressive. They reminded me of mini NIP. Not quite all the experience that they had. New LG Evil, based largely around Jake, but Super showing you he still has it.
I will say that there is a great loss of hammers becoming LG Evil, which is that fans of this team really like spamming the hammer emoji in Twitch chat, and that's no longer an option. I don't know what you would spam for LG Evil, but I just feel like the options are nowhere near as simple and effective as a mere hammer.
I think hammer's still fine. It's like wearing a throwback jersey, something along those lines.
Yeah, but Hammer's just picked up another team, so who are you really supporting?
That's true.
It's very unfortunate.
Fair enough. Shake is going to come out on the Zenyatta. They're running a very dive offense here. Is compLexity as they try to bring this one back. They have to find an answer for Jake. Perhaps he will just be sitting with discords on him the entire game.
Well, Jake is certainly a problem that needs to be dealt with here, because if you lose people, Jake will clean up the rest. Both teams being pretty tight over the pug, but Super gets taken down early once more. The focus fire and compLexity on him working out. 2-1 in their favor as Nicholas now getting the work into the back line. Jake, McCree, under pressure here, not going to be able to get it done, and this is looking pretty good here for compLexity. They should be able to pick this up, though a few members of LG Evil still in and around.
Dive comp working out really well there as they dove into the front, forced them to the right side, and everyone was getting discorded and cleaned up. Nice coordination, good target calling there. That's what the Discord does so well. When things start to break down, every single target is going to melt. Works really well in this dive composition. I feel we're going to see a lot more Zenyatta in the future.
Well, I think the Zen is also to punish Super in his preferred mode of play, which is just holding down left mouse button and keeping the rocket hammer swinging the entire time. So meanwhile, take a look at Nesh coming in from the back line, finding Romp 420 effortlessly. 2 fans and a dash. He's out of it. Now going in for Jake. Was expecting the reaction flashbang. Did not happen because Jake didn't even know, but Nesh, 2 very vital kills that probably just win this fight outright here for compLexity.
Yeah, very nice for him. A hook will come in late, but all that hook does is draw out a discord and a following death. compLexity at 50% and counting, as they've yet to give up control of this second stage in Nepal.
So compLexity, much stronger start here on the Shrine stage. We'll see if LG Evil can find a way through here. They don't have a whole lot going for them here. They're not even gonna have Sound Barrier up until very late into this fight. So they're running Jake on the McCree, but if he doesn't immediately take down Nesh, it's not necessarily gonna be great here, at least for cracking the point in a low ultimate situation.
As we learn some about these new players, we'll see what Nesh can get done on his Dragon Blade. Here it comes.
Dragon Blade coming in. It is high noon as Jake picks up 3. Sometimes all you need is a cowboy. It gets the 4th for good measure. Death and destruction left in Jake's wake. Even picking up Nicholas for good measure at the very end.
Nicholas had a pulse bomb in there and was trying to bring it back. I think if that Dragon Blade stays alive, he definitely gets Jake, and perhaps Nesh can bring some more fight to it.
I just hope by next week, Jake has changed his name to Jeff so we can say wrestle with Jeff, prepare for death. That would actually be an accurate description of that last fight.
Top meme. There we go. Fan the Hammer, Electric Cowboy coming out, as that is 2 quick kills for LG Evil. Shake will take down his counterpart. Rob 420 goes down, but so far, fight largely in favor. And my goodness, Jake, he's a madman.
Is that time movie right there?
No, that's Jake.
That is not a Finnish person that is now out of Apex. Rip Envy.
Well, Jake making a name of his own. No reason to call him Budget Taimu, as he is going to have a Deadeye up for this next fight. Still, compLexity in good shape. If they win a long fight decisively, take it out, perhaps they can take control of this map. Super's got Earthshatter looking to line one up around the corner. That's why he keeps peeking.
Oh, well, he peeks a little bit too hard, gets punished for it, not able to drop the hammer where he wanted it. So 2-1 here in favor compLexity as Torque getting the work, gutting people down, but oh no. It's high noon once more. Will this connect? It somehow gets on the Meza. Who knows how? Got him at the very split second. And now, up here versus Nesh, and Nesh going to do enough to at least cause Jake to be out of the fight. But the rest of LG Evil coming back in, and compLexity actually in rough shape here as they're still struggling to bring this back.
Well, Joe Meister will sound barrier, but he's so low on health, he eventually goes down to Train, who is back in this fight. As you mentioned, the big boys, the beef on the ground is back for LG Evil. Still have not given up control at this point. Now compLexity has to be careful not to stagger here. It could be the last fight. LG Evil is at 95%.
Well, that's where Mezos is doing probably ready to buy some time, but Jake has returned. And it's on to fight, but Nesh immediately shoving a blade into his chest. 2 kills here from Nesh, looking for a little bit more compLexity. Not going quietly into that good night right now, as Nesh picks up a 3rd. So Nesh's Genji having a pretty good showing here thus far. It's going to let compLexity retake the point. 1 fight away here, Hex, from evening up this map.
That's a very nice stagger, a super important stagger, as Avast is not going to be able to speed boost his team out to the point. Now it's going to be desperate. Not only will they be down a man, but they might not even have the speed to get back here.
Yeah, hammers, please, or LG Evil, can you get to the point? You need the dash on there, and they do. They do cause overtime, but Jake going down immediately. They're not able to get good positioning at all. Vol is still around here as an X factor, but this is going to be a very hard task indeed. Vol, one of the last people remaining on the point, will lose that Tracer v Tracer. Well, more like Tracer and friends versus Tracer, as compLexity holds on here on the Shrine, ending up taking it in the end. We're all tied up on the Paul, 1-1.
They are giving Jake the grim treatment. He is getting focused very hard. They're diving him as much as possible. You saw it. They sent a Genji and Tracer after him every time. Tracer's throwing pulse bombs, Genji on the other side. They're doing the best they can. So maybe see some switch ups here. Super, I don't think is going to run this 76, but maybe run a double hit scan to deal with these flankers, give Jake a little more space.
That or just throw more nano boosts on him. You know, we always say Electric Cowboy. We can also say Lightning Cowboy. That's actually more intimidating. No,
well, I mean, lightning is just a form of electricity. You're splitting hairs there.
Yeah, but Lightning, I mean, it just, he's fast, he's doing heavy damage. I don't even know, I'm splitting hairs.
All right, well, Super is going to switch back last second here. So the exact same composition. They are not going to give up on it just because of one lost stage. Conversely, on the other side, they are still running triple DPS. Shake is off. The Zenyatta, though, is back onto the Ana instead, so no Discord orb available.
And both teams here can take it a little bit slow here. compLexity definitely not engaging very heavily. And oh, that might be why. It looks like we have a pause. Might have a disconnect in progress here. It is coming from the compLexity side, so that is why they did not engage, and that makes a bit of sense.
Yeah, just giving it up there. I think someone may have DC. Oh, just a little ping spike. So we're going to give it a second and just wait for it to...
Just everyone let go of your peripherals. Just give it a second. Let the tech gods do their work. No, yeah, so we'll be back here. But it does give me a chance to talk about one topic from that last matchup, and that is the emoticon question. And my question is, are hammers evil? Because then maybe they would still work as an emoticon. This is maybe a bigger question, but I guess is there
Hammer?
any evil? Yeah, the look
I
on
mean, it
your
really
faces.
depends. Are you using hammers to build buildings for poor orphanages, or are you using hammers as a turtle in the Mushroom Kingdom to smash plumbers? I mean, there's a wide variety of uses here for hammers. Let's just be clear. The spectrum is very wide.
I don't feel comfortable answering that until I've had at least 24 hours to dive into
To
the
really,
deep
like,
philosophy of it.
Think about it.
How
you
dare,
know,
like,
meditate
that's,
on it a little
that's
bit.
heavy, man.
All right,
That's
we'll have
heavy.
to talk about it tomorrow.
You know what
then.
is also
Maybe
heavy?
not.
A hammer.
Wow. Just
I'm
on
surrounded
fire. Yeah.
There's no escape, just so you
man.
know. And the
No.
longer this pause continues, the deeper into the rabbit hole we shall go.
Please just unplug it and replug it in again. That's my tech support.
There
help.
it is.
Yeah.
You have everything you need as someone who's certified in some technical support
Did
options.
you wait 45 minutes on tech support to get that tip?
No, my power went out once and it fixed my internet issues.
My power went out once. That's pretty next level stuff. As we're back.
Well, we are back into game here, and unfortunately for compLexity, that disconnect is going to concede a lot of early positioning here to the side of LG Evil. We'll see if they even get the point, but here comes compLexity, a little bit late to the party as Meza immediately going to fall, and that is just it's not even disconnect, it's just a lag spike where
Yeah.
it does concede first control of the point.
Gonna be difficult. Shake and Torque, they'll grab a couple of kills, important ones too, as Vol's down, no have to worry about a hook. Rob went down, so a lot of the healing now unavailable. Nesh has been playing a nice Genji though. That's always a question when you're looking at new players. How big is their pool? What is that pool? Couple of nice kills, Vast Torque. This should be compLexity taking it right back.
Dash reset after dash reset coming in here for Nesh, and what more do you need to retake the point? Of course, Nicholas having a good time of it definitely helps. So, compLexity, early tech issues notwithstanding, are able to recap here, and it's going to put the pressure now on the LG Evil to find a way of reversing momentum.
Still not a whole lot of changes from this LG Evil side. Vol has been really quiet on Roadhog so far when he's been playing it. His Zarya was much better on Kings, but so far not getting those enormous hooks and not going off the way we're used to seeing him go off on Roadhog.
Nicholas stalking the back line, going to give Vol a special delivery and a pulse pistol finish at the very end. So Vol already out of this fight, not able to deal with Nicholas, but LG Evil, they retake the point in the middle of the fight, so they're playing with house money here. Nesh, late Dragon Blade coming out, getting booped and bopped around, gets nothing but a nano boosted hammer right into the grill. We see Torque not even gonna get a chance to really tack visor there, so Super clearing house with that rocket hammer, able to finish out the point.
One thing that has worked out well, and he's not shown up enormous in the kill feed, is running Meza on the Winston. It pressures Train and it pressures Jake when he is hanging out with Train because they're getting that cleave. So the positioning has not been ideal for where they want to be. They're at least making Jake uncomfortable, which is the first step to stopping him. Here comes Torque over the top.
What will make everyone uncomfortable is the nano visor coming out here from Torque. Takes down one immediately. Now playing around the side, and he's just feasting off of Vol here, man. Every fight, getting 25% ult charge off him, taking him down. Vol is not protecting himself very well here, as compLexity in a very good position here to retake this point.
No, it has not been a banner round for Vol on that Roadhog. We'll see if he can switch it back around as Whole Hog will come online. All during those last couple fights, though, LG Evil had control of the point, just now being flipped back over by compLexity. 35% to 75% is your status update. Super's gonna have Earth Shatter. That's about it for ults on the field, except for a Vast Sound Barrier.
And for compLexity, they have maybe a fight and a miracle fight to go into this if they lose this, so they don't have a whole lot of buffer remaining. Here comes LG Evil. They open up the Sound Baron. Vol, bit of redemption there, takes down Meza very early on to this fight, and that's going to set the stage for the rest of LG Evil to flood in here. It is a 5v4 still remaining. Nicholas still an X Factor that's moving in and around. He's picked off Tomb, so now it's becoming more and more dangerous as he is unchecked. So is Nesh. And we'll see if the flankers can bring this around, but LG was able to recap the point there, Hex.
LG did grab that point back very easily. This is an ambitious Dragon Blade. If a Dragon Blade only kills Jake, is it worth?
If Jake falls in the forest, generally I would say no in that case. Jake did his job with a good trade out. He didn't burn an ult there, Nesh did. And what's important is that the control of the point still in favor of LG Evil. As Vol coming alive again, takes down Nicholas early on. There's no Tracer heroics on the menu, and that Earth Shatter is going to seal the deal. 2 extra kills here from Super. compLexity almost certainly going to be giving this one up.
Does appear so. That will take out Nesh out of suit for good measure as well. That is LG Evil tying up the map.
So for Vol, it was really a tale of two halves because he definitely started out relatively weak there, but man, got the pickoffs he needed towards the very end. So even Roadhog, of course, can be somewhat streaky in Overwatch.
I'm just starting to believe I have the reverse curse power, because every time I call someone out for not playing well, it seems my voice echoes through the ether. They hear me and they want to prove me wrong. So I'm for it, I guess.
Hex, just tell me that I'm definitely not going to run into a random pile of $1 million outside. Then we're good. I'm not splitting it with you either.
Well, wow, you really incentivized that deal.
I know. Well, listen, if it's $1 million, you know, I won't know for sure if it was your power that did it. So I need to be a little bit greedy.
Why don't you just ask for 2 and split it?
Buy McDonald's.
All right, well, this is a 4th stage here on Nepal. LG Evil looking to go up 2-1 in this series, as they already had 1 map. This is, of course, our 3rd map, but we drew out on King's Row of all maps. So big one here. No composition changes of note except Shake back to the Zenyatta. It seems to definitely be stage specific.
Well, the Zenyatta is very good at punishing Super when he goes too far in, and Vol in particular. But Vol goes down with the ship after taking down Shake. So still 2 kills to 1 in favor of LG Evil here, as Nesh looking for a way of turning this back around. Darting around the outside here with Nicholas. Double flankers are a tool that you can use to turn fights around when otherwise it wouldn't happen. All 3 DPS for compLexity is still very much in this fight, so even though LG Evil has gotten the first cap, whether or not they hold will be a thing question. But Train off the nano boost takes down both Genji and Tracer as a diva, no less.
Well, it was a boosted Diva, which is a little bit different, a little less embarrassing to die as those heroes against the Diva. But when you have getaway mechanics and Diva Zanya, it can be rough. She's got a good chase on her as well. So that is LG Evil taking first control, nearing 25%. Super worked his way up to an Earthshatter. Torque has been rather quiet lately, and I only say that because I expect an enormous tactical visor coming out.
Well, Tac Visor certainly going to get a little bit less than if you weren't going up against Reinhardt, but still Torque has found his moments over the course of the game. Meanwhile, of course, Vol sitting here looking for that early pickoff, and compLexity being somewhat tentative, but now they dive in. The Tac Visor coming out here from Torque, and here comes the Dragon Blade out from Nesh. So compLexity very much all in on this fight. Nesh able to find Super in the backfield early on, so 2 kills coming in from compLexity. They invest a lot of resources, though, Hex, to take this fight.
They did, but they needed to take it back at some point. Why not try there? And also, they knew they baited out some of the ultimates from LG Evil prior to that, so it's not going to be that much different of a disadvantage. In fact, look at this. Shake up, Meza up, Torque up. They actually have the ult advantage because they did so much damage there. Could get some work done going into this. 60% on the board for LG Evil. Jake had an enormous Deadeye on this stage earlier. I believe it was a 4K, and perhaps looking to set one up now.
Well, you see Jake running off to the flank, so I think that is a fair guess. Jake sneakier and McCree here, but this time the sneaking not going to be quite as uncontested. He gets a monkey in his face early on. Nicholas comes in to all the people that are protecting Jake, drops a pulse bomb, picks up 2, and that rotation from LG Evil not going to go the way that they were planning.
Not only that, but look at this. compLexity didn't have to use much. They're going to have mostly everything up. Pulse Bomb doesn't even count, really, in my opinion. It charges so fast if you're doing any significant damage as the Tracer, and with these alt batteries of triple tanks on LG Evil, not that significant. Nesh has played really well, about to have his Dragon Blade up 50%, about to tie up the percentages as LG Evil looks to rotate over top.
This is multiple threats, though, coming to LG Evil from multiple sides as Nesh being a little bit on the... Oh, no, gets hooked in by Vol. He's not able to be that threat from the side, and suddenly an opportunity is opened up here for LG Evil, but Torque gonna try and shut down. Goes with the Tac Visor off the sound barrier. No one can really deal with him. He picks down 2 immediately, including Jake. So compLexity might have done all they need to do to turn this back around, although they have invested now 3 ultimates into this fight, so it does come at a bit of a cost.
Jake invested his too. He moseyed out right into a tactical visor. I suppose if it goes down quick enough and Torque's not looking or doesn't have his sound turned on, then you're going to be able to get that, but that was an odd play.
Deadeye, if you actually look at the stats, has a very negative win rate when used in fights. Even at the high-end level, it's very difficult to get consistent value out of it, and we're seeing that from Jake. Even though he's had good Deadeyes, that was certainly one of the worst ones. But final opportunity here for LG Evil, trying to pull this back. Nesh draws the Dragon Blade early on, doesn't really get anything, ends up getting juked out of his cyber shoes, ends up getting slept as Super finishes the kill. 4v4 here on the point. Torque, though, still a threat. Nicholas still a threat. The TGL brothers trying to hold back LG Evil. Soundbear comes in late to the fight, and with Vol getting that hook, things perhaps might be turning in LG Evil's way, but Torque, Tac Visor is finally built up. He gets hooked right in, but still alive. Not gonna be alive for long.
Well, Joe Meister saved him, I think, right there. That was probably a boop coming in, not letting him finish that off. Avast and Volv both get a couple of kills, though, and in the 11th hour, LG Evil will take it back, but they have to hold the entirety of this stage. If they do so, they will take the map.
And holding for the entirety is not that difficult here. It actually could even be one fight if it's a prolonged fight. If it's a quick fight, it's two. So in complexity, it's in their best interest to actually dive in on this sooner rather than later. Time is ticking away because now, actually, if they lose this fight, it's probably over. They waited too long. We'll see how this fight works out. Super. Holding onto the hammer, holding onto the Earth Shatter. Evo's already down already. Oh, there's the Earth Shatter. Knocks down one. The Transcend's going to keep people alive in the aftermath, but Complexity's still not working with the full deck. 4 versus 6 here on the point. Volv very much poked down, and he will fall. Shake, able to finish it out. But while that's going on, Jake takes out the threat, and here comes what could be the finishing Dragon Blade. One slice, looking for more. Forces out the rewind. While this is going on, we're in overtime, and LG Evil on the verge of finishing this out. They just need a little bit more.
Jake's switch on a Genji here has worked out really well, able to take down some of the threats, able to evade some others. They are getting every kill. Super swinging the hammer. Torque's going to try to get in. Sprint not able to get there. That is LG Evil taking it, and they're up in the series 2 maps 2-0.
So, I will say this for complexity. Even though it is now 2-0 in favor of LG Evil, this has felt like productive losing, if there is such a term. And I only say that because I give complexity a little bit more wiggle room because they are a new roster. And by the way, you don't see great Deadeyes like that all the time.
No, you don't. And I agree with you completely. If Decop and Bishu were playing and these were the same results, they would have answered my question that I had all last week of can they hang with Hammers or LG Evil? I've done that all night. I can't get over it. I did so much better last night on it. But you don't necessarily have to win, in my opinion, a lot of times. I didn't expect them to beat LG. I expected them to show up better and to show that possibly in the future they could beat LG.
Yeah, and I hate to speak in terms of like, well, potential.
Right.
But this is somewhat of a litmus test on those lines is, you know, with the tools that they have, if they hone them, what can they do? And we've seen some glimmers of hope here.
Well, I think the one thing that really does stand out here, because it has been a weak point for complexity for quite a while, in all honesty, is that Nicholas and Torque have been question marks in regards to how much can they bring truly top-tier DPS performance. And I'm not going to say they're there yet, but this has been a far more convincing performance from them today than I think we've seen in quite some time. Nicholas, in particular, really having very good moments darting around on Tracer.
It's been the biggest difference between their 0-2 start and their 2-0 since start. They've looked so much more consistent. They've looked so much more just on. And that has always been the inconsistency question. If they don't play very well, 0-2. They start playing really well, 2-0.
Yep, and well, I mean, now I'm almost starting the point here. Like, now how is complexity going to play if they can keep this roster together? We'll see. I really do think that also along the lines of who's doing your damage, that Nesh on Genji, I had some questions on King's Row. He played pretty good off tanks, but now that I've seen him on Genji in a successful circumstance, he might be someone that we can actually rely on for this complexity team to try to carry. We're moving on to Gibraltar. So let's look at this map for these two teams. LG Evil actually hasn't seen it as much because they've been 3-0ing a lot more people, but tell us about how complexity is played on Gibraltar.
Well, they're 2-0 on Escort. I know it's a small number, but one of those maps was Gibraltar. I think they have the tools to be able to do it, especially Torque 76. Again, we always mention 76 on this map, but that's been since closed beta, essentially. He's got such good high ground. If they wanted to run a Widow here, either offensively or defensively, they could. So there's a lot of different options. I really liked the dive composition they brought out on Control. It seemed to really make Jake a little more uncomfortable.
Well, if nothing else, this is a very good test as to where complexity is when it comes to their performance on Escort maps, because you have two conflicting stats here. You have recent history where they're 2-0, but then you have their extended history where they're actually pretty awful on Escort historically. Now, of course, that does go back to the Hard Blue days when you're looking at that, and so many things have changed. But this is a case where if they come in here and just get blown out immediately by Hammers, you can go, maybe they are still having some degree of trouble on these maps, or maybe Hammers is just really good on it. It's hard to tell because Hammers has been on top of the heap.
Just surprised you didn't bring up that one time Harblue beat Cloud9 by himself. Yes. I mean, I know how you like to talk about Cloud9. That was a different Cloud9, though. It was an absolutely different one.
That isn't even like as much as saying, oh, Cloud9, you lost us. That was just Harblue having himself probably I really stretch my brain to think about times where I've seen players have good games.
Better individual game.
That might be the best individual game we've seen at a high level between two top teams ever.
Alrighty, well, let's get back to these guys. LG Evil, as you know, there's plenty of Overwatch that we could talk about, but we need to talk about this right now because we're going into game. But my one final question is, do we still see this 3-tank setup with Jake just playing miscellaneous DPS? Or are we going to see something different out of LG Evil?
They said they've done nothing different tonight, so I will go on what I've seen most recently. And also it worked pretty well when they were playing against Immortals. The biggest question mark, in my opinion, is what kind of damage output are you going to get from your tanks, especially Vol?
Right, and I mean, for right now, for the side of LG Evil, why change what's working? You have no real reason to go in here and change up something that compLexity has not had a great answer for. The thing that is a little bit surprising to me is that we thought initially that Jake was going more McCree on assault maps and all the rest, but he's been staying on McCree most of the night, so even as Grim Reality forsakes the cowboy, as it were, Jake has been taking up the mantle, which, who knows, maybe if Immortals is watching this, will inspire Grim to retake up the mantle, put on his cowboy hat, and make some grilled cheese.
Oh, the grilled cheese references keep on coming. I think you could make a grilled cheese on Gibraltar if you just left it out in the sun for a little bit.
It does look rather hot there. I take a look there and I just think, man, I would burn.
Maybe on top of one of that big orb in the background, probably. Anyway, this looks like no different setup for LG as they choose defense, compLexity on attack, of course, and if they have their druthers, they almost always play attack on maps like this. Torque for the moment on that Hanzo. That is very likely just to check for some cheese. Speaking of, up in the corner, make sure that they're not all hiding there, and he will use that Sonic Arrow to do so.
And for LG Evil, they might be taking a page out of the Immortals' selfless book here and how aggressively they defend this. Of course, there was a point where teams always held back. And actually for LG Evil, they're not really running the composition they would need to be that aggressive. It's much more standard defense, and so I can be looking to hold here in the server room.
compLexity taking all this free push. They're completely uncontested. They'll take high ground if they want. They've gotten it all the way through the car wash, not even having to dive yet, really. So giving up a lot of ground is this defense. Not exactly what we're used to seeing from LG Evil. They usually try to force fights early.
And clearly for LG Evil, this is their strategy right now, where they are just holding here in the server room saying, you guys, if you want to push a payload here, you're going to have to evict us at some point, and already getting that early pick up, they're in good shape. Now, Super ends up dying, Ben. Jake finding himself in trouble. Needs to get supported, will get supported, and now actually can turn the tables entirely on Nesh, finishing him off there, able to back out. Very nice support there coming into Rob420, the support Jake shenanigans.
Well, Jake didn't hit every shot, but Rob did, and that was the important part of it. Had he missed one of those, he was already down to about 40 and taking damage, so really clutch play out of the support. And look at that, already charged up his ultimate. Jake is about 85% so far, so even though they gave up a lot of free push to Underhanger, they were waiting for that ideal moment. The hook signaled that it was time to go.
compLexity trying a different approach here as Torque going very long way around. Will be setting up the flanking soldier. Meanwhile, Nesh has a Dragon Blade ready to pierce through the front. So there will be a pincer tech coming out, and here comes Nesh coming in. Because Torque is in the back line, now he pulls out the blade. Looking for the second kill after getting Jake. Not able to get it. In fact, getting hammered back a bit by Super. But with Super falling, this is actually working out pretty well as attack visor does come into play from the back. No protection here whatsoever for LG Evil. Of course, D.Va does get him towards the very end, but it's thrown them so out of position here, Hex.
Jake took down Shake very early in that fight, and that is really going to hurt their healing. Whole Hog will come in to defend this as well. It is just Torque up. Meza goes down late there. Little shy of 2 minutes left to get this first checkpoint here, but they have gotten a lot of progress. They could roll in with a Transcend or a Sound Barrier. Generally don't want to use those at the same time, but that's all they've got up for compLexity. Blind Hook misses early through the doorway.
I will say it was part of the D.Va, but it's a little bit surprising that compLexity didn't get more off that attack visor. It looked like Torque had everything dead to rights, but really LG Evil was able to find a way back, and all of compLexity's good work seemingly for nothing. Now, they can't hold the server room quite as heavily now that the card is that far forward, as Nicholas and Torque get to pick up 2 here immediately. Nesh on the fall through, the triple DPS, paying dividends here for compLexity is suddenly LG Evil going to have to give up this point, but it's clean enough and the cap quick enough that they shouldn't have to deal with much in the way of split spawns.
Well, we'll see. That is always what we assume on Gibraltar, and it's never the case because Gibraltar, notorious for its split spawns. Super just making sure he gets a quick and clean death by going back to the card. It seems no matter how clean a wipe is, 2 people die on splits on Gibraltar.
Well, the interesting thing for there is that I think Super just never died. He was the Reinhardt that lived until he didn't.
I think he was coming out of that left spawn and he just chose to go forward. I thought I saw his silhouette.
It's possible. It's hard to tell.
Yeah, it does not matter in this case. He got back there to get a couple more hammer swings so that he would have an ultimate working, but they had to give up this high ground. It becomes very difficult to evict. Here comes a giant Dragon Blade.
Dragon Blade coming in, Sound Barrier protecting him, but the on and aid going to stop him from getting heals. Nesh, though, still able to cut down Super, gets enough support to make it work. 4 kills here from compLexity, and this hanger phase quickly passing by LG Evil. They're going to be lucky to have even an attempt here on second once more.
Even if they're able to evict and get a full wipe, they don't have necessarily the composition to be able to hold this high ground. I do think they will come in. That is their style, LG Evil. You don't want to give up points for free. They could have an Earth Shatter, but that Winston Shield has done a good job of slowing down the block.
Well, the pulse bomb coming out here from Nicholas, and he does get robbed for 20. It's not a stick, but it still connects. 2 kills early on here. No more healing really in the back line of LG Evil, and they don't have the resources to bring this back. They do a very late Sound Barrier, but this is suspect at best. Still, though, Train with the self-destruct getting on the Joe Meister. Potential here, maybe, but it would be kind of a throw here for compLexity not to take this point. They just have an overwhelming advantage, and the Dragon Blade will be sealing that here with the Aid of Transcendence.
The good thing about that fight, at least late, is they forced out the Transcend, forced out the Dragon Blade, forced out Primal Rage. So despite losing a lot, coming in there towards the backside did cause them to maybe take a bump in economy as they look to finally set up a decent defense. Nicholas up top. Jake with a very long range Helix takes down Shake.
Torque getting that long hook goodbye there as Vol going to bring him back in. So for LG Evil, this at least is going to stop compLexity for a little bit. It'll let them maintain their defense in a more sustainable position. compLexity going to have to back this out just a bit. So LG Evil actually in a great position here to stall out the last of the 3 minutes. Sometimes momentum gets away from you. Perhaps not this time.
Being pretty aggressive, thinking better of it as Jake gets discorded there too. I feel like LG Evil is in an odd spot sometimes where they don't know if they want to get super aggressive and they don't know if they want to play defensive. It seems like they're a little bit out of it tonight.
Well, we do have the Tech Buster coming over the top. Jake immediately bopping Nesh, firing through, causing the rest of compLexity to run for their lives, and certainly Super is there with the rest of the fall through. Swings the hammer with the Vost, and compLexity fully cleaned out of that fight.
And again, Torque used his attack visor there late, got no value off of it. Shake's gonna switch, Torque's gonna switch. They were throwing it in. Torque's gonna switch, but they're still gonna run a 76. Nicholas just wants to play it instead. Torque will go over to Roadhog, so wholesale changes on the side of compLexity to try to crack this last point. Regardless, still doing pretty well as that hanger phase was incredibly quick.
All right, so LG Evil here still with some tools in their belt. compLexity gonna have to do this without much of anything, going in rather dry, as Torque does have hookup, of course, as Roadhog, but he's getting pushed out of the fight, not able to go for the attempts he's looking for, and LG Evil sees this as a time to go, although Sleep Dart comes in, gonna stop the rampaging Roadhog. So both teams exchanging a bit of poke, neither team coming out ahead. And now compLexity actually might have an opportunity as they bring this back in, but they do have to be aware of those tank ultimates.
Well, they just had to burn 2 ults and they got 0 out of it. That shield stayed up, they were able to round the corner, so a Nano Wholehog got nothing, not exactly what you want there. Self-destruct's coming over top, there is a shield in there, but still grabs 2! Nicholas and Shake go down.
If I were an NFL referee right now, I'd be holding both my arms up because that was beautiful. Straight through the uprights, taking down 2. And off Train self-destruct, compLexity finding this to be a corner of death indeed.
I think that was much more decisive from LG Evil, though, that they decided to get aggressive. They didn't want them to set up top. They wanted to evict them from that point. It's what they failed to do on to second. Now they have the high ground. They're going to be the aggressors.
Well, we are down to the final minute here. compLexity going to have to try and find a way through. They still have not been able to get much up in the way of ultimates, but at least they have a Sound Barrier they can use so early on. But here comes Nanovisor over the top. It's going to force out the Sound Barrier immediately. Jake, no fear, diving to the back line, just shooting at literally anything he can, has to back out. The rest of his team not getting a whole lot of fall through there, so the Sound Barrier does keep them alive, but oh my goodness, Shake falling the ball at the very end. There's 25 seconds left, and maybe compLexity gets another fight off this. The only silver lining.
Maybe. If you're wondering what those lines on your screen are when Jake's alive, it's generally the defense matrix keeping him alive yet again after a hook.
Well, compLexity, they do build up 5 ultimates now, so they're everything coming online at the last moment. 10 seconds left remaining. A true opportunity here to finish out Gibraltar. Time won't be remaining, but an overtime push very much on the way. We're taking a look at Nesh here, holding on to the Graviton, looking for the perfect setup. The Graviton is going to come in. Grabs in 3. The fall through, not necessarily there. The quarter actually making it very awkward for the fall through. So LG Evil sustains. Now coming back into the fight. They take down 2, and suddenly things looking a little bit rough here for compLexity. They've lost 2 in this fight. They're still looking for anything to move it around, but Jake, undeterred, moves in from the flank, grabs the final 2 kills with the nano boost. Make it 3 here, Hex, because compLexity gonna get stopped right here before last.
Just better alts. Just better alts. The Earthshatterers came in after one completely missed, the other shut down a nano-boosted attack visor into a charge that shut down the compLexity threat very early on. Not much more to say. They had everything they needed. They had all the tools in the bank. LG Evil simply executed better on their ultimate abilities.
And that's unfortunate for compLexity. I mean, again, you had 5 ults going in. That was actually an incredible window. I think they're going to go back and look at this and kind of kick themselves a little bit. Hex going, we let one get away from us here. And I think what it comes down to is I really did not like that Graviton by Nesh. And I understand they saw 3 people, but you grabbed people into a situation where they're going to have natural cover, and the rest of your team is way behind you. So effectively, they threw away their Graviton there. And it is, by the statistics, the most impactful ultimate in the game. It is the ultimate that if you use it, you're most likely to win the team fight. So to get nothing off your Graviton is actually a very big loss.
Absolutely. I think a lot of that was worried about the D.Va, who was right there in the moment they saw an opportunity to maybe sneak it around the D.Va. But you're right, pulled him around the corner and then wasn't able to be their own follow-up as the hook came in, forced out the shield. Just not ideal. And then the Earthshatter didn't connect onto Super, who in turn Earthshattered their last offensive threat, the nano-boosted Soldier 76, and was able to charge him out of the wall. So just execution there. I will say overall, as a note, I've talked about LG being different as far as stylistic compositions, if they want to run this or they want to run that. One thing that has always remained is being aggressive on defense. They found a little bit more of that there towards last than they did on second. I'd like to see them play a little more aggressive. That's what I've always liked about this team.
Well, we're going to get to see what the compLexity defense has in store for us here, and it's interesting to see how they're setting this up here, where they're not going to be running the Reinhardt, instead running with Roadhog and Winston. So this is a hybrid dive setup that has a little bit of meat to the back. It's not exactly what you always see here, but very well could work out.
A little bit odd. Of course, on the other side, it is 3 tanks and Jake. That's what this team has been running most of the evening. Jake takes every free moment he has to say, hey there, I appreciate it, pointing out his targets before he tries to put the 6-shooter to him. Rotating up top here, looking for anyone who's going to peek. Again, a lot of free push happening here as it seems that compLexity does not see an opportunity. They're holding very far back, almost all the way up at glass.
compLexity giving a lot of room here to the side of LG Evil. They're playing this much more old school. In fact, Hex, this resembles old school Crossfire defense, if nothing else.
Well, it's going to matter where that other fire is coming from. They gave up a lot of ground. Get them all in as a sloppy engagement over the top as they drop their Reinhardt. Jake gets his first pick, though.
Jake, headshot, body shot, goodbye, good night to Nesh. 2 kills, coming in very quickly here from the side of LG Evil, and the server room might become a tomb, Hex, if nothing else here, as they're down players. It's going to be very difficult, and oh my goodness, Vol, the flick scrap gun shot coming out from Roadhog. This is decisive, and this is going to be the hanger. And split spawns very well could be on the menu. Let's see what LG Evil is going to feast on here as they waste no time going in and actually...
Nothing.
Nada.
Huh.
Zip.
Who'd have thought?
Buffet's closed.
What's so crazy about LG Evil is that even when they mis-execute a play, they have the pure skill to pull it off because they wanted to bring Super up top with them. He fell down and they still went in and got the kill on Nesh, which has really opened that up, killing the soldier up top.
Well, the hook does come in here from LG Evil. They're not able to get the immediate pickup here, but certainly compLexity under pressure. Super nano boost, fine shake. That's one way of getting rid of a Discord Orb. Fire strike in onto Roadhog, and Super on the prowl, on the hunt, eats a hook, but does not matter as Torque dies immediately. So compLexity's defense looking very, very lost right now, but it's been some nice execution coming in here from LG Evil.
Well, on both sides, we've always said the first fight into hangar phase is going to be your best, as you don't have to push through small doorways. The defense is not necessarily established up top. We've seen both teams take extreme advantage of that. The highest of noons potentially incoming.
Jake in or the ship, and you're right, it is high noon, it is high elevation, holding on to those skulls. Had a chance to take out the Genji there, doesn't take it, instead goes for the bigger Deadeye onto the main fight. Doesn't get any direct kills, but does do quite a bit of damage. Partial damage from Deadeye is the thing, is Jake right now not even utilizing his keyboard, just moving his mouse. Why move when you can be a turret, McCree? This is McCree's Bastion impression.
A pretty good one as well. Jake's gonna roll through another hay there as he rolls down. Likes to point out his targets. It's kind of intimidating.
Beep boop, partner.
Well, he is part robot after all. We don't know which parts were used in McCree's.
Is that a regulation auto aim in your right hand, McCree, or are you just happy to see?
They do take this high ground, getting very aggressive still over top, and these flankers have not been able to do any work on them so far. Deadeye's gonna come in, try to get something. The sound barrier gonna make it much more difficult. Still finds two.
Well, anytime you have Electric Cowboy plus High Noon, it is going to be all sorts of deadly. Jake finishing out 3 here, and happy to see this better use of McCree play coming out here. Of course, we used to see this a lot from Mortals. Grim Reality has forsaken the Cowboy, but Jake has not. In over the top now. Good positioning here once more as compLexity really struggling to hold us back. Remember, they didn't even finish out the map, so it's just a yellow box victory here for LG Evil. 4 minutes for the win, and heck, they might not even need it. Nesh gonna try and be the difference maker here. No, he's not even on the cart as he goes down, although the cart was not a safe place. Genji flying away. So that's gonna be LG Evil taking Gibraltar and taking the series 3-0 with a draw on Kings Row.
At some point, flankers and DPS have to swallow their pride and say, we can't deal with this McCree. We've tried, we can't deal with it, he's got too much support, and switch on to something different. Because he ran wild. He absolutely ran wild there. They'd send 2 flankers at him. Look at this, this is a perfect example. 2 flankers below him, he's just gonna rotate over, get a boost, clean up, where these other 2 flankers, whatever, it doesn't matter, gonna clean them up too. Like, at some point, you gotta send a diva after him, you have to send something after him that's gonna make him more uncomfortable because he fed on those flankers all day.
It just makes you wonder why I don't see nano boosted McCree more often, because I've always thought it's been effective, and yet teams, I'll tell you why. They go 76 more often because it's more reliable. You hit the button, it aims for you, you can still move, everything else. And yet we still see that McCree, when well played, with good positioning, can be a threat with that level of support.
Yeah, I think that you mentioned the 2 most important aspects of Jake's success, and positioning is one of them, because about 50% of the time he was going off, he was above them there at the end on the spaceship, and a couple of times, even on Nepal, he was finding positioning where you're like, the other team is just like, I don't know where he is. We've seen that multiple times. And then the other 50% of the times, when they do know where he is, you've got, Diva there, you've got a couple people supporting. But I do think that positioning is going to be a huge X factor if you're going to overcome Jake on McCree. And that is something that once you do overcome it, then maybe Jake goes right back, because we're watching him go off right now.
Is this just regular replay or the Jake highlight reel?
It might be the Jake highlight reel. I mean, we'll see what else is on here, but if it was the Jake highlight reel, kudos to the replay team here, because why not? Now, unfortunately, we do have a 76 in here. Boo. It's still Jake, though.
No, I was going to say, there's no difference between the regular games and the Jake highlight reel. That's exactly, they're the exact same thing.
Yeah, when you asked that, I just, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes and yes.
Yeah. Well, let's talk a little bit about compLexity, because we could really just talk a lot about that amazing push on Gibraltar, but I want to break down compLexity, because we did not expect them to come in and win. We wanted to see what kind of a fight they could put up, and specifically, I want to look at the 2 new players. Let's start with Meza. How was his performance? Did he stand out at all on Winston and Reinhardt?
I would say he stood out by not standing out, in a sense. I wouldn't say Meza lost them the game. I don't think he was necessarily winning them games. If you compare it objectively to what we saw coming out from, say, Decop had much more game-changing plays than Meza did as far as trial performance goes. And I will say this, though. I did like the addition of Nesh. And I think that Nesh gave compLexity a much more convincing triple DPS option than they've had. So if I were compLexity and I were managing this right now, and I hate to be the arbiter of justice, but I would be questioning Meza, but hopefully optimistic on Nesh.
I agree with you in a sense, but let me put this to you about complexity's old roster. Because it might even be more than that.
Yeah, let's see.
Because Meza, to me, had a very JKW-like performance, and I don't think that's a bad thing, because you know exactly what JKW is going to bring you on Reinhardt. You know he's going to have his shield up most of the time. You know you can play around it. I think that's what these DPS players like to play behind. They played very differently with Winghaven. I thought Decop was the perfect mix of both of those, and I brought that up when Decop was on the team. But this team is very comfortable knowing exactly where their Reinhardt is, a Reinhardt who will be there. So I would say that to table it. I agree with you that you could get bigger plays out of your Reinhardt, but this is a team that's played behind a Reinhardt who is steady before.
Well, so what you're saying is, in short, is that complexity is content with mediocrity.
At certain positions, yes, I think so.
Why not shoot for the stars?
Because every time they shoot for the stars, they get a tank who leaves them the next week.
Fair.
The only thing I'll say about Meza is he died a lot early on Winston. I think that his Reinhardt play was a lot better. He had a couple of shield battle wins and didn't really stand out too terribly much, but maybe for the best in that case. But he did die a lot early on Winston. He was diving in, and some of that might be just the team cohesion when you're diving in on Winston. It's definitely different than having the Reinhardt shield up where you're like, is everyone behind me? But let's talk about Nesh in that case. I think he was a boon to their DPS threats. But let's walk through some of the heroes that he played, because I think he played 4 today.
Well, he played Genji and Soldier 76 in most recent memory.
Yeah.
Zarya.
And I think he played Diva just a sec. I'll have to go back and look.
It's possible, during the course of that set. So, I mean, it is an interesting hero pool where clearly he's there in part for complexity to have the flexibility to run triple DPS options. And frankly, when you look at his projectile DPS on the Genji side of things at the very least, he is clearly a stronger Genji than either Nicholas or Torkar. I mean, actually, frankly, complexity has not been able to run Genji basically ever.
Yeah.
No, I mean, the times where Torque has been on, it's just been, really? This is your Genji? This is your top level stuff? It's like watching Envious try and play Genji. It's not a pretty sight.
Right.
Yeah, actually, I had a moment there where at the end when he was on 76, I was just thinking, another guy that can play 76, and we've criticized them for like, well, who is complexities? Who are their main heroes that they play? And they even swapped at one point. Was it 76 swapped from Torque to Nicholas, and then Torque was on. It's like the swaps are just.
We're all soldiers now.
Yeah, we're all. Oh my gosh.
Well, my line has been stolen. This is great minds meme alike, Hex. That's really.
All right.
What?
All right.
Anyway, well, with that victory, LG Evil is 6-0, and that is going to be the last game we see of them this week. So we're going to have to see what they can bring us next week. That said, Complexity, they're now tied with Immortals at 2 and 3. Yep. So both of them are going to be fighting at the middle of the pack. But next up, we're going to be watching Team Liquid and Renegades. I don't want to talk too much about that. We're going to go to a short break. Don't go anywhere because there's more Overwatch Carbon series yet to be had tonight.
Because I give complexity a little bit more wiggle room because they are new roster. By the way, you don't see a little bit overextended, but there's the hammer coming down from Super. Gonna be knocked. Complexity now trying to take advantage of this torque, piling on. Tac Visor and Nano Boost in play, picks up 2, and this is just going back into this fight. Torque again over the top. Tac Visor being dropped right down into the Earth Shatter. Suddenly, just the support backline for LG Evil getting absolutely throttled.